Chapter 2152. Han Fei originally wanted to fish for the Beast King, but after dozens of attempts, he still didn't catch it. He didn't know if it was because it was too far away. After all, the two weren't in the same sea area at all. In desperation, Han Fei could only fish for the historical projection of the Silent Lord. After all, Balan came here through the god's arrival technique. No matter how powerful Duan Qingxi was, she was only at the heaven-opening state. Han Fei didn't believe that he could meet a peerless heavenly talent who fought a heaven-opening emperor so easily. Therefore, Han Fei didn't think Duan Qingxi could win, even if she released more than 100 heaven-opening state ominous creatures. However, these ominous creatures attacked indiscriminately. They would attack the three people from the primordial city, so they would naturally attack Duan Qingxi. So, anyway, there was already a mess there. Balan almost obliterated a heaven-opening state ominous creature with a slap. Duan Qingxi fully activated her secret technique, and the entire area within a radius of tens of thousands of kilometers was filled with sword light. Just now, Duan Qingxi's strongest sword strike was blocked by the triangular divine seal summoned by Balan. After all, Balan's power descended, so the two forces were in a stalemate for more than 30 seconds. At the moment when the divine seal was broken, Duan Qingxi's strongest sword strike was also obliterated. Balan seemed to have won, and she could even occasionally help the other two heaven-opening state cultivators of the primordial city. In just a few seconds, Duan Qingxi's body was penetrated twice. This time, Balan's god's seal came over, and a green jade in Duan Qingxi's hand shattered. Then, the phantom of the Silent Lord appeared in the ruins, and he also burst out a sword strike. Balan laughed out loud and said, "A mere phantom. Master of Silence, are you looking down on me?" As Balan waved her hand, a triangular divine seal appeared in front of her. Strange Tao patterns grew in the triangular divine seal, and then a yellow demon knife slashed out from it. Rumble, when the terrifying explosion swept in all directions. Because Balan had to resist the attack of the Silent Lord, she couldn't take care of the people on her side. This negligence caused a heaven-opening state cultivator of the primordial city to be swallowed alive by a group of heaven-opening state ominous creatures. This person had actually taken out enough clean stones, but as soon as the clean stones came out, they were all swallowed by something. No one knew that it was a small black fish. Perhaps Balan had also sensed it, but he didn't have the time to make a move. Without the purity stone, how could a heaven-opening realm be a match for a group of heaven-opening realms? That person was enveloped by the ominous creatures. He tried to break out several times, but to no avail. In the end, he directly self-destructed in an attempt to use the residual power of the self-destruction to buy time for himself so that Balan could save him. However, the moment he self-detonated, his divine soul was instantly pierced by a soul stab. Xue Fei's nightmare had opened up his origin sea. After drilling in, a large number of energy crystals were released and instantly detonated. Rumble. Speaking of which, Balan seemed to have a lot of power that had descended here. Therefore, even though Duan Qingxi had the projection of the Silent Master, it was still not enough. Duan Qingxi yelled, "You've sent so much power here, aren't you afraid you can't stop my master?" Bai Lin snorted coldly. "Even so, I'll kill you first before I return." Bai Lin was also annoyed. They really thought that this was the entrance to the chaotic Azure Sea. But who could have known that this turned out to be a deliberate plot by the Silent Master? This meant that they had noticed the news that the chaotic Azure Sea had been opened, and the Silent Master had also guessed it. Moreover, both sides were playing tricks. In the end, it turned out that his side was still a little bit weaker. Now, although he knew that the chaotic wasteland must have been in chaos, Bai Lin naturally had to kill someone to vent his anger since Duan Qingxi was here. After all, the four great generals were already very strong. However, just when Bai Lin thought that he could easily penetrate the projection of the Silent Master and kill Duan Qingxi, all of a sudden, there was a rumble here and a great way collapsed. It turned out that a heaven-opening realm expert of the primitive city was killed by a group of ominous creatures in the heaven-opening realm? Of course, Bai Lin was not that naive. As long as he had enough pure stones, even the ominous creatures in the heaven-opening realm couldn't kill him in a short time, let alone kill a heaven-opening realm expert so quickly. 2. When Han Fei fished out the Silent Master, the latter was also speechless. After all, he was a venerable emperor. If his real body didn't want to, how could Han Fei really fish him out by force? Even a historical projection had its own consciousness. So, when the Silent Master appeared in front of Han Fei, his eyes turned cold, and he asked directly, "Who are you?" "Han Fei. My name is Han Fei, the current human emperor." The Silent Master looked at the indifferent Xue Fei, and then his eyes slowly fell on Han Fei. He said lightly, "So, it's not him, it's you. Han Fei, you are the chaotic Azure Sea, the former human emperor?" Probably before this, neither of them had expected that the meeting of the leaders of the two generations of the human race would be conducted in this way. The Silent Master slightly raised the corner of his mouth. "So, this time the exit of the chaotic Azure Sea was opened, and it was you who came out." "Han Fei, the sea demons have been destroyed, and the human race has been unified by me. I will come to the sea realm eventually." The Silent Master turned his head and looked at Duan Qingxi, who was about to collapse, and said quickly, "You are just at the heaven-opening state. Even if you hide in the Scavenger City, what can you do? Why don't you come to the Wanderer City? Here, I can answer your questions." "Han Fei, I can't go for the time being, but I can send an incarnation of yours there. I have other plans for the Scavenger City." In fact, the two of them had nothing to say. The reason why Han Fei fished him out was to deal with Bai Lin. At this moment, seeing that Bai Lin had discovered the problem and was trying to kill Duan Qingxi, the Silent Master snorted softly. The next second, he had already appeared in front of Duan Qingxi. With a wave of his sleeve, the Emperor's sword slashed across the sea. Clang, even though Bai Lin's reaction was fast enough to block in front of him with the triangular divine seal, the historical projection was still the Silent Master with full strength. Therefore, under this sword, the heaven-opening state of the Yin family couldn't withstand such a high-intensity battle at all, and half of his body was blown up. The other heaven-opening state powerhouse of the primitive city was swept by the residual power of the sword light and directly exploded into pieces. He didn't need to find any natal items at all. He was directly killed, causing a change in the weather. "Emperor?" Duan Qingxi was dumbfounded, and a look of disbelief appeared in her beautiful eyes. There was no such thing in the plan. How could the Silent Master have time to care about the affairs in the primitive cemetery? The Silent Master waved his hand, and the heavenly awakening divine technique descended. Duan Qingxi's internal injuries were almost instantly healed. He shouted, "Go and kill the fish that escaped the Scavenger City's net." When Han Fei saw the heavenly awakening divine technique, his identity as the Silent Master was completely confirmed. At this moment, he knew it was time to put on a show. Duan Qingxi only thought that Xue Fei was a strong heaven-opening state powerhouse, but she didn't know that Xue Fei was also a problem. Xue Fei's image as a member of the 10,000 Scale clan was destined to be his target. Seeing that Duan Qingxi was charging at him, Han Fei turned back into a bracelet and hung it on Xue Fei's wrist. Xue Fei, on the other hand, was covered in injuries. Then he crushed the jade slip in his hand. Instantly, the projection of the 10,000 Scales Emperor appeared. Xue Fei shouted, "Emperor, it's a trap. This is not the starting ground." Duan Qingxi disguised herself as Cho Qin and hunted here. The primitive city is not a good thing either. They didn't care about my safety at all. Luckily, I escaped into this ominous fog. Otherwise, I would have died by now. The 10,000 Scales Emperor looked at Xue Fei, who was covered in wounds, then at Duan Qingxi, who was charging towards him. Then he looked into the distance. Isn't that the Yin clan's heaven-opening realm expert and the Master of Silence? Wait, why is the Silent Master here? It can't be, right? As this jade slip was bestowed to Xue Fei by the Emperor 10,000 Scales at the last moment, he had no idea what had happened in the outside world after that. However, the heaven-opening state powerhouses of the 10,000 Scales clan are almost all dead now. It's meaningless to participate in the battle now. After all, this is not the starting ground. Therefore, the projection of the 10,000 scales emperor grabbed Xue Fei and slapped Duan Qingxi. Then, he waved his hand and used a large amount of chaotic energy to create a tunnel. The moment the tunnel was created, the person who was temporarily using Enbai's body also retreated quickly, trying to leave through the tunnel. The silent master also grabbed Duan Qingxi and went through the tunnel. Swish, swish, swished, a few figures appeared in the outside world. The silent master shouted at Duan Qingxi, "Go!" Then, he turned around and attacked the projection of the 10,000 scales emperor. The 10,000 scales emperor wasn't stupid. He was just a projection. How could he be a match for the silent master, who seemed to be a real entity? Therefore, the moment he came out, he didn't take the silent master's attack at all. Instead, he escaped with Xue Fei. The 10,000 scales emperor traveled across 1,000,000 miles. During this period, Han Fei saw that the 1,000,000 miles of ice seemed to have been broken several times, and the ice layers were rearranged messily. I wonder how the real bodies of the silent master and the 10,000 scales emperor are now? In a few minutes, the 10,000 scales emperor shouted, "Go back and heal your wounds. I'll reward you some other day." Venerable Emperor. Xue Fei quickly retreated alone and went toward the mountain city. If there were no accidents, the war in the chaotic wasteland would probably start. Han Fei sighed in his heart. 7 people went to the primordial city, and only 1 survived. 5 people went to the primordial city, and 2 of them were spies. If Zhang Wei and the other 2 knew about this, they would be traumatized. Chapter 2153. Han Fei hadn't returned to the mountain city yet. When he passed by the number 98 farm, he found a fierce battle here. Out of curiosity, Han Fei slightly hid his tracks and slowly approached that place. When Han Fei scanned with his perception, he found that the void there was shaking and the weather was changing unpredictably. There should be heaven-opening state warriors fighting in the void. Because the power was too strong, part of the void cracked and some power escaped. And the main city of number 98 was called U City. There were about 23 places where sea-opening state warriors were fighting. Boom. In just half an hour, a pioneer sea realm powerhouse had died. Han Fei's heart skipped a beat. Sure enough, the Master of Silence had a purpose for setting up this trap within a trap. He was going to attack the scavenger city. The battle had already begun the moment they started fighting. From the moment he and the other emperors started hunting, to entering the primitive cemetery, to coming out, and to appearing here, it actually took less than an hour. More than half of these 2 hours were spent on walking. Therefore, the plan against the scavenger city might have been in place for 3 years. The scavenger city must be in a passive position. Han Fei guessed that since the number 98 farm had started a war, the number 80 farm must have started a war too. However, it didn't matter. If the puppets he controlled died, then so be it. Even if they died, he could just ask the main city for another batch and refine them into puppets. In any case, he still had a lot of spiritual strength left. Even after over 700 years of conversion, he had only managed to convert a little. This kind of surprise battle generally wouldn't last too long. According to Han Fei's estimation, the Wanderer City had lost one of the 4 generals. The remaining 3 would probably join forces. If the 3 of them joined forces, it wouldn't be a problem to slaughter 5 or 6 cities a day. Or, the 3 of them would lead the army to attack the scavenger city and confront Zhao Honghuang. However, such a battle wouldn't be easy. There were many heaven-opening state warriors in the scavenger city. In addition to Zhao Honghuang, there were also the 10 great lords. It was inevitable that there would be some backup plans. It was extremely difficult to attack them directly. But Han Fei didn't care anyway. While the Lord of Yu City and the heaven-opening state of Wanderer City were fighting, Han Fei quietly searched in the Lord's mansion of Yueching City. While searching for the treasury, Han Fei listened to the roars of the kings of the city of wanderers in the void. Of those people, only about 20% were humans. Some of them were half-beastmen, such as half-man and half-horse, half-man and half-deer, human-headed arachnid, one-eyed humanoid. These people fought crazily, all of them igniting their blood. Someone shouted and used his blood essence to form a giant scythe, intending to harvest. He roared, For freedom, for the sake of never wandering again, I'll fuck you up. Someone roared furiously, all living beings are equal. You bastards of the 10,000 scale tribe, bullying other tribes. You deserve death. Some of them were so crazy that they punched out with both their fists. In close combat with the 10,000 scale tribe, they decided to self-destruct. It was just a matter of who could recover faster. After the man in the city of wanderers blew himself up, a holy light lit up on him. Han Fei recognized it. Isn't that the apocalypse divine technique? A divine light that's been liquefied? Han Fei even saw a centaur emperor fighting fiercely with Lu Hang, the lord of the U City. This person held two sky-splitting axes and waved them in the void like a storm. Wherever he went, storms and thunder rumbled. He yelled from time to time, "Boys, take down this city. Go back and have fun in the heavenly beast lair. The boss has spoken, so let's kill him. Kill. The 10,000 scale tribe will pay for the expenses of the heavenly beast lair." Han Fei couldn't help but click his tongue. He didn't know how the previous king gathered this group of people. They were indeed as crazy as the rumors said, like bandits. Han Fei looked around and searched for the treasury. After a long time, he found a resource distribution center and got about 2 million clean energy stones. There was also a clean energy stone refining center, but he got 20 million clean energy stones and nothing else. It was a pity that the lords usually wouldn't store the treasury in the city, so it was most likely with him. In the lord's mansion, Han Fei heaved a long sigh. Alas, I didn't want to keep a high profile, but you really didn't give me a chance. Just now, outside the primitive cemetery, if the battle there had subsided, as long as he could still use the nautical panorama, he would have been able to plunder a large area. Unfortunately, he couldn't stay there for long. He had lost 40 million energy crystals by running back and forth. It could be said that he only had 50 million energy crystals now. He was probably the poorest lord in history. If he went to Mochi to buy intelligence, he could only buy 2 or 3 at most. He couldn't possibly come here for nothing, risking his life for nothing, right? So, Han Fei turned back into his real body and put Xue Fei into the Sea of Origin. He looked up into the sky and his lips curled into a cold smile. Then, Han Fei turned into a burly man with angry hair and crushed the lord's mansion. At that moment, in the void, the lords looked at the city in shock. Who the hell is so stupid? It's just a mansion. Is he going to smash it? Then Lu Hang, the lord of the U City, was fighting fiercely. However, he suddenly found that his lord's mansion had collapsed. Out of curiosity, he looked over. However, he saw a flame breaking through the void, and a tide appeared in the void. Taking a closer look, it was simply a tide of sword waves swept over by billions of sword waves. The half-beastman from the Wanderer City who was fighting with Lu Hang was also dumbfounded at this moment. Who the hell is this? I didn't hear that there were reinforcements here. The point was that this reinforcement was so fierce that he didn't know him at all. Was there such a person among the heaven-opening realm powerhouses of the Wanderer City? However, regardless of whether such a person existed or not, this person was extremely ferocious. Putting aside the sea of blades and the waves, this person formed a fist seal. Wherever the fist light passed, the void would collapse, and the endless void would be crushed out. Moreover, it was crushed along the way. Lu Hang turned into a giant palm in the air, trying to resist, but he completely underestimated the power that Han Fei broke out. Even Xue Fei's power was only about 1.3 million waves when he died, but Han Fei's power had reached 1.86 million waves at this moment. Lu Hang ranked 98th and even Xue Fei was no match for him, let alone Han Fei. After punching out a scene like a nuclear explosion, Han Fei still had the strength to use the yin-yang reincarnation knife backhandedly. One knife to cut his body, one knife to cut his soul. Together with the sword waves transformed by the infinity water, Lu Hang was cut into flying ashes in an instant. The half-beastman was dumbfounded. He had been fighting for a long time, but this person killed him with a punch, a knife, and a wave? Han Fei yelled, "Hey! Center, do you have a way to penetrate his natal item or cut his Tao?" The half-beastman was taken aback and then had an idea. Anyway, Han Fei didn't seem to be malicious and helped him kill the enemy. Since Han Fei was not an enemy, he must be a hidden powerhouse of the Wanderer City or a powerhouse who came back from the boundless mining area. However, how could it be easy to cut his natal item in Tao? The centaur shouted, "I don't have a better way. I can only crush his divine soul. I heard that the 10,000 Scales clan has a natal scale. If we can find that natal scale and penetrate it, we may be able to break his origin sea." Han Fei frowned. Is that so? Without effective means, it was very difficult to kill a heaven-opening state powerhouse. Even Han Fei didn't have a way to easily penetrate someone's origin sea except for the nautical panorama. As long as the origin sea of a heaven-opening state powerhouse couldn't be broken, it was basically impossible to kill this heaven-opening state powerhouse. At this moment, Lu Heng didn't seem to be reborn at all. He seemed to be concentrating all his strength to resist the attack in the origin sea. Or, he didn't care if the U city was breached. In any case, as long as he didn't die, it didn't matter if these kings died. When the time came, he could just ask the main city for them. Han Fei glanced around and found a scale hidden in the blood mist in the debris. Swish. Originally, Han Fei was just trying to see if he could penetrate his opponent's origin sea. He was still complaining in his heart, "You don't even know how to kill a heaven-opening state powerhouse, and you're still fighting here? Are you fucking crazy?" If it weren't for the fact that the nautical panorama had been used up today, Lu Heng would have been dead by now. However, something that surprised Han Fei happened. When the hidden scale was shattered by Han Fei, a strange wave of void fluctuations appeared. It was like the emptiness in the void temple. It was somewhat similar. In the blink of an eye, Han Fei turned into a streak of golden light and rushed into the fluctuation. The people rushed over crazily, trying to use this as a space node to penetrate Lu Heng's origin sea. However, he was one step too late. Han Fei had already gone out. Lu Heng reacted immediately and sealed the entrance. After Han Fei came in, he was still shocked. It turns out that the 10,000 Scales clan really has a node that connects to the origin sea? If the 10,000 Scales clan has it, does the other races have it? Anyway, Han Fei felt that the human race didn't have it. Otherwise, how could he not know about it? Lu Heng yelled, "Human, how dare you enter my origin sea? You're courting death." Han Fei grinned. "Every time I come in you say the same thing. Is there nothing new? Master Calabash, time to eat?" After a moment. "What the hell is this? If you dare to kill me, the 10,000 Scales Emperor will not let you go." Chapter 2154. In the end, as long as he killed a lord of the heaven-opening stage, all his efforts would be repaid. In addition to obtaining a large amount of chaotic energy and immortal spiritual energy, Han Fei had almost emptied Lu Heng's bank account. Because it was after the tide wave, he didn't get much purity stones, only a little more than 100 million. Lu Heng had apparently gone to the scavenger city to report his work, so he only got 80 million energy stones and crystals. However, these resources were enough. He had only spent 40 million so far. Wouldn't it be great if he could earn 80 million? Rumble, in the sky above the U City, a celestial phenomenon appeared, and the kings all looked at him. Which lord died? Anyway, they didn't die, and they didn't know what happened to the invincible human sky opening state. Bim, the void exploded, and with a flash of golden light, Han Fei appeared in front of everyone with a dazzling body. The kings of the Wanderer City didn't know what happened either. Thinking that Han Fei was on their side, they yelled, "The enemy lord is dead. Brothers, kill him." As for the Centaur Sovereign, he stepped forward and said in surprise, "Fellow Taoist, I've never seen you before. For you." Han Fei raised his head, revealing an unruly demeanor. I am invincible in the human world." The centaurs were dumbfounded. "I've never heard of you. You are invincible in the human world? What do you think of the Lord of Silence?" However, before the centaurs asked, Han Fei threw out tens of millions of energy crystals and roared at the sea-opening state experts who were fighting, "Brothers, don't fight. How many resources can you get from killing the royal family of the 10,000 Scales? Follow this empress to attack the next city." On the Wanderer City's side, the kings exclaimed when they saw this. Wow, this lord is so generous. He gave out tens of millions of energy crystals. Someone had already flown back, scooped up some energy crystals and then yelled, "We're here to attack the city. The sky opening state is dead. It's time to go. We must be efficient." Someone yelled, "Don't drag the two emperors down. Stop fighting and go to the next city." The kings of the U city, seeing that even their lord had died, were not willing to fight anymore. He had long been thinking of ways to escape. When they saw that the wanderers had stopped attacking, they almost burst into tears. This group of lunatics was finally going to leave. Han Fei glanced at them. "Let's go. Speed is the most important thing in war. If we don't take down 7 or 8 cities today, how can we live up to the Silent Master's arrangements?" The people were still confused. Ren Tianfei was too nice to the Wanderer City, giving away tens of millions of energy crystals at will. This wasn't a small amount at all. Killing a king would result in hundreds of thousands of energy crystals. This was a problem. Furthermore, it seemed that this person knew about the Silent Master's plan. There were very few people who knew about this plan. It seemed that this person was indeed one of their own. Although Xiaochen did not know who he was, he knew that this person was brave and skilled in battle. Since he could kill his way through a heaven-opening expert's origin sea, he must be a mysterious human expert from Wanderer City who wanted to use this opportunity to appear. Hence, the troops shouted, "Everyone, follow me and kill our way through the 10,000 scale tribe." Swish, swish, the speed of the group of people was almost at the limit, but Han Fei and his team were very leisurely, just leading the way from a distance. Han Fei asked confidently, "Fellow Taoist, how should I address you? I've been hiding in the human world for 10,000 years. Do you think I don't know you? Is anyone going to attack the Scavenger City?" The troops were speechless. Who would attack the Scavenger City? He shook his head in confusion. "No problem. I'm Machenkuan. The Scavenger City is not easy to attack. There are too many experts gathered there. Even the 4 generals can't take it down. At present, the generals are leading the emperors to attack the cities behind number 50. Brother Ren, you've just appeared. Why didn't the Silent Master share this news with us? Where are you from?" Ma Qingquan still felt that Han Fei's background was a bit strange. If Han Fei hadn't killed an emperor of the 10,000 scale tribe, he wouldn't have dared to travel with this person, even though he was a human. Han Fei said with a smile, "Of course you don't know. Duan Qingxi and I worked with the Silent Master to lure the 2 emperors of the Yin family and the 10,000 scale emperor. Otherwise, where do you think we got the chance to attack the Scavenger Sea area?" "You and Goddess Duan lured the emperors?" Ma Qingquan looked at Han Fei in a different way. Only the heaven-opening state overlords knew that Duan Qingxi did have a secret mission this time, so no one knew where she went. He didn't expect that she went to lure the emperors. However, Ma Qingquan was puzzled. The 2 emperors of the Yin family? Are they from the primordial city? From Ma Qingquan's tone, he didn't seem to know much about the Yin family, but when Han Fei mentioned the 2 emperors, he thought of the primordial city. Han Fei said, "Exactly. Those 2 fish shit from the primordial city. Sooner or later, I'll beat them up." Ma Qingquan really wanted to roll his eyes at Han Fei. "What kind of conditions do you have? You're just a heaven-opening state overlord. What are you thinking?" In the number 97 farm, a battle was also taking place here. The situation was exactly the same as when Ma Qingquan attacked U City. Number 97 farm, Black Jade City, Lord Qiuzhe. Han Fei already had this person's information in his mind. Although this person was in the know. 97 farm, his defense was extremely strong. It was said that his defense was comparable to that of the top 50 lords, and his peak defense might be comparable to that of the top 10 lords. If it weren't for his low combat power, he would never have been in the number 97 farm. He would at least be ranked among the top 50 lords. The one responsible for attacking Black Jade City was a human-headed centipede. It was the first time that Han Fei had seen such a species. He could understand the human-headed spider, but how did this human-headed centipede come about? Were there no normal creatures in the Drifter City? The point was that this human-headed centipede seemed to be a woman, with long hair and an extraordinary appearance. On the other side, the centipede was crazily cutting a 10,000 scales clan expert who was almost completely covered in jade armor. It could be seen that at least 30% of the centipede's legs had been broken. It still couldn't take down Chiozei at all. At this moment, the human-headed centipede was yelling, "You tortoise shell! Fight me for 3,000 rounds if you can. What's so great about turning into a lump of iron?" Chiozei sneered, "Wanderers, how dare you sneak attack the 10,000 Scales clan? When my experts arrive, you'll all die without a grave. But if you don't come out, I'll kill all the kings in your city first." When the human-headed centipede was about to slaughter the kings, it suddenly sensed something and looked into the distance. The centaur yelled from a long distance away, "Sister Qinghua, we're here to help you." Then, the centaur said to Han Fei, "Brother Ren, this is Wu Qinghua. This is Wu Qinghua. She has an explosive temperament and is one of the few female heroes of our Wanderer City." Han Fei said, "But I see." Han Fei couldn't equate this big centipede with a female hero. But in any case, he couldn't judge a book by its cover, right? From 100,000 kilometers away, Han Fei turned one of his hands into a sword, and the immortal spiritual energy and ferocious energy were entangled. The aura of the deity had been brewing from 100,000 kilometers away. Shoot. For a moment, Ma Qiankuan, Wu Qinghua, and the kings of the Drifter City were all shocked. What the fuck is this? It began to break out from 100,000 kilometers away. When the sword was formed, the endless void was torn apart, and the chaotic energy in the void followed it. Wu Qinghua was shocked and said subconsciously, "What a powerful sword! But who is this?" Wu Qinghua saw that this person came with Ma Qiankuan and guessed that he must be on her side. A mere 100,000 kilometers was nothing to Han Fei and the other heaven-opening stage powerhouses. Clink crack, crack, crack. Chiozei was dumbfounded. Why are there 3 heaven-opening state experts? How can I beat them? I wouldn't be afraid if there were only one of them, but I might not be able to defend against 3 of them. Unfortunately, the other party came too fast. He couldn't run away even if he wanted to. Also, that person's sword chi was like a rainbow, crossing the sky and looking extremely fierce. After one blow, Chiozei's crystal armor was covered with cracks. Shoot! Brother Ren's explosive power is so strong? Ma Qiankuan was stunned. He couldn't help but look down at his double-handed axe. I should be the one with explosive combat power. Chiozei was horrified. His whole body was burning, and 3 spiritual slips flew out of his body, which turned into 3 layers of purple jade-colored weird armor. Chiozei roared, "Who can break my defense? I'm invincible!" Thud, 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 thud. As soon as Chiozei's voice fell, a sky-covering handprint fell from the sky. Heaven and Earth manifestation. Han Fei transformed into a figure 10,000 meters tall and punched out. Seawater evaporated, flames burst out, and immortal spiritual energy filled the fist tip. At that moment, the group of kings who had just perceived it and those who were fighting were all dumbfounded. When did such a tough guy come to the city of wanderers? Chiozei had already been beaten out of shape. He roared, "Bastard, tell me your name if you have the guts. If I don't die today, I'll cut your head off in the future." Han Fei laughed out loud. "My name is Ren Tianfei. I'm invincible in the world. Who do you think you are? Today, I'll destroy your Tao and your soul." Thud, 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 thud. The rhythm of his attacks shook thousands of kilometers, and the ripples set off waves and storms, one wave after another. Kaka, Chiozei was strong. He might be able to block 1 or 2 punches, but Han Fei had activated his great path and Dharma form. The gap in strength had become an insurmountable gap. In the blink of an eye, thousands of punches were launched. Even the kings of the city of wanderers couldn't help but feel their eyelids twitching. Someone said, "The emperor of the 10,000 Scales clan is hopeless. I can tell at a glance that this is a Wanderer City's champion-level expert. This crazy drive is awesome." Someone exclaimed, "Although I've never seen this senior Ren before, after this battle, his name will definitely resound throughout the city of wanderers. Chapter 2155. Han Fei hadn't fought to his heart's content for a long time. In particular, after he used a large number of energy crystals in Mountain City, his strength and soul power both skyrocketed. Although his strength hadn't reached its peak yet, as long as he fought, his strength could be restored faster. However, although his strength was still the same as before, his attacks were fiercer than before. When the tens of thousands of punches passed by, the crystal armor on Chiozei of the 10,000 Scale Clan was completely crushed by Han Fei, leaving nothing behind. This time, Han Fei didn't search for Chiozei's natal scale, because Wu Qinghua was good at using her soul power. The moment Chiozei was crushed, Wu Qinghua's spiritual power burst out, forming a range of spiritual attacks, and directly found the entrance to Chiozei's origin sea. How could Han Fei let it go? He instantly pierced through Chiozei's origin sea and went in. Wu Qinghua was immediately stunned. Dumbfounded, she said, "He went in just like that? That's someone else's origin sea." Ma Qiankuan helplessly waved the double axes in his hands and said, "I thought so too, but Brother Ren, you entered someone else's origin sea as if there was no one there. I really envy you." Wu Qinghua looked puzzled. "Are you familiar with each other? Why don't I know him?" Ma Qiankuan replied, "No. We just met each other. This Brother Ren went on a secret mission with Master Duan Qingxi. Since it's a secret mission, we can't know about it. Moreover, with this, Brother Ren has consecutively killed 2 10,000 Scale Tribe Heaven Opening Realm experts. How old Ma trust him?" Wu Qinghua was dumbfounded. Although she felt something was wrong, Han Fei's fighting skills, attitude, craziness, and pure human identity made her give up her doubts about Han Fei. If Han Fei wasn't one of us, and there was something wrong with his brain, why would he come and help me kill a tough opponent like Chiozei? Ma Qiankuan and Wu Qinghua even agreed that if Ren Tianfei went all out, they might not be able to resist him. Rumble! A moment later, when a crack appeared, it was the sign of an emperor's death. With a bang, Han Fei cut open the void and came out of Chiozei's origin sea. This time, he had obtained more than 90 million energy crystals and more than 100 million purity stones. In addition to these, Han Fei also obtained a stone called the Heavenly Jade Essence. This jade could be melted into one's body and directly refined and assimilated into one's bones, strengthening one's physique. Being able to find such a treasure at the heaven opening stage was already very rare. Perhaps in the Venerable and Sea Expansion realms, there were still many unique treasures. However, once one reached the heaven opening realm, they would no longer be restricted to 1 or 2 treasures. The expansion of the origin sea and the integration of resources required all sorts of resources. Treasures that could directly refine one's body, improve one's bloodline, and refine one's soul were mostly heavenly treasures and earthly treasures. And this heavenly jade essence was a heavenly treasure. Overjoyed, Han Fei flipped his hand and threw out another 20 million energy crystals. Brothers of the City of Wanderers, we'll sweep through all the cities on this trip. Let's set a small goal first. Let's conquer 5 or 8 cities. Everyone took a look. Did he just casually throw 20 million energy crystals? How could this emperor be so extravagant? Especially the kings who followed Han Fei here. They had only just arrived and joined the battle, and another 20 million energy crystals had dropped from the sky. Wasn't this expedition too enjoyable? Someone shouted, "Senior, you're invincible. We swear to follow you and sweep through all the enemies." Someone picked up a piece of energy crystal and laughed. "The Flying Emperor is invincible. Follow the Flying Emperor and you'll have meat to eat." But Han Fei was dumbfounded. "Don't you know how to talk? Damn the Flying Emperor." Han Fei shouted, "Don't you know how to talk? I, Ren Tianfei, am invincible in the human world. You have to call me the Human Emperor." Ma Qiankuan, Wu Qinghua, the kings, everyone was speechless. "We admit that you're indeed powerful, but it's too much for you to flatter yourself like this. The Human Emperor is the emperor of an entire race. I, the Master of Silence, am the emperor of the human race. I don't dare to say that I'm invincible in the human world, nor do I dare to call myself the human emperor. But you've just made a move and you're already calling yourself the human emperor? Aren't you afraid that the master of silence will beat you to the ground? Wu Qinghua said to him via voice transmission, Old Ma, I think this guy may be stupid. He's a bit too arrogant. Ma Qiankuan responded, It seems that this guy is indeed a bit crazy. But who cares? When the time comes, the 4 divine generals and the master of silence will deal with him. After all, he's really strong. This battle lasted longer than Han Fei imagined. Perhaps it was because the Master of Silence stalled the 10,000 Scales Emperor and the 2 emperors of the Yin family. Anyway, a full 2 hours had passed. Han Fei, together with Ma Qiankuan, Wu Qinghua, and the many kings, swept through 3 more cities. Every time, Han Fei would throw out tens of millions of energy crystals, and the number was getting larger and larger. At this time, the kings who followed Han Fei to sweep through the Scavengers' Sea area were completely intoxicated. It was true that they pursued freedom, but on the other hand, they were also ferocious people. They were all powerful figures gathered from all over the East Ocean Divine Continent, and they also needed a lot of resources. Therefore, Han Fei frequently threw out a large number of energy crystals. It was okay for the heaven-opening state. But for the sea expansion state, who wouldn't be intoxicated? So far, all the kings who followed Han Fei all the way here had collected hundreds of thousands of energy crystals. Even the first batch of kings who followed Han Fei had collected more than 1 million energy crystals. Even Han Fei couldn't resist the chaotic energy, ownerless souls, and spiritual energy provided by 40 million energy crystals. 1 million energy crystals was already a huge sum of money for the kings. With this huge sum of money, coupled with appropriate cultivation methods, once they returned to the city of wanderers and settled down, their strength would definitely advance by leaps and bounds. At this moment, Han Fei had finished sweeping through city number 94 and shouted again, Brothers of the city of wanderers, what are we going to do next? Please answer me. At this moment, there were more than 100 kings gathered, and they all roared, Continue to sweep, conquer cities, and then kill the emperor, someone shouted. With the combat power of the human emperor, it won't be a problem to conquer 10 more cities. Han Fei laughed. Ha, you know me. Let's go, let's continue to sweep. At this moment, Ma Qiankuan, Wu Qinghua, and the other 3 heaven-opening state were already numb. The 5 of them looked at the kings who were almost driven crazy by Han Fei and had mixed feelings for a moment. They had led the kings for so long, but they had never seen these people so crazy and admired themselves so much. However, Ren Tianfei had only appeared for a few hours, but he had already taken root in their hearts and made so many people willingly call him human emperor. Wu Qinghua said, The communication jade slip has not been broken, which means that this battle is not over. We can continue to fight. Although Brother Ren, although he is a bit crazy, his combat power is really amazing. I feel that in the future, he may be able to compete with the 4 generals. Now let's let him continue. However, just when Han Fei was about to push to the number 93 farm, he saw a slight change in the weather on the way. Someone said, Brother Ren, this is the sign of the fall of the human emperor. Han Fei thought of something. We are close to city number 93. If our people conquer a city, it will be perfect. If it is not our people, we will work together to kill the emperor of the 10,000 scales. Everyone nodded. With Han Fei's help, they had now gathered 6 emperors. Even one of the 10 great lords might be able to resist such a force. After all, Lunatic Ren was here. Therefore, after 100 seconds, before they arrived at city number 93, they saw a person flying over across the sky. The souls of the emperors collided with each other more than 50,000 kilometers away. Han Fei suddenly thought of something. Are you kidding me? Is this the First Lord? Yes, this person was Pan Lydian, the leader of the 10 great lords and the first city. Everyone in the city of scavengers knew this saying, Heaven-forgetting seal, 9 dragon sword, emperor armor, no one can survive once the emperor appears. This was not a joke. This was a real record. Pan Litian's position in the city of scavengers was second only to Zhao Honghuang and Zhang Beihai. Han Fei never expected that he would take action in person. He traveled across more than 90 cities to fight the enemy. Not only did Han Fei recognize this person, but Ma Qianquan and the others also recognized him. It was mainly because Pan Lydian was too famous. In fact, it was mainly because Han Fei and the others' attacks were too fierce. They attacked one city after another. They could kill a heaven-creating lord in a moment. If they continued fighting like this, the dozens of cities in the Scavengers Sea area would be finished. Therefore, Zhao Honghuang arranged for Pan Lydian to come in person. He wanted to see who could kill emperors consecutively. The three generals did not know that Ma Qianquan and the others would fight so fiercely. They did not expect that Pan Lydian would come here. Wu Qinghua yelled, "Lords, enter my origin sea. Hurry!" Ma Qianquan yelled, "Lords, listen up. Enter the Blue Flower Sovereign's origin sea." What do you think I, Pan Lydian, am doing if you think you can save these kings under my nose? Even from 100,000 miles away, the blue sea was suddenly suppressed by a terrifying pressure. An unparalleled seal appeared, its phantom image spanning tens of thousands of miles, bringing with it a tremendous force as it crushed down. Ma Qianquan yelled, "Everyone, stop him!" However, the sword behind Pan Lydian was like a ray of light. It transformed into 9 azure dragons that pounced forward with a momentum that could destroy the heavens and earth. The dragon's roar alone was enough to make Ma Qianquan and the others' blood flow. Chapter 2156. When Han Fei saw Pan Lydian, he was shocked. Didn't they say that the 4 gods would descend on the city of wanderers? Even if Duan Qingxi was not here, there were still 3 godly generals. If they could not stop Pan Lydian and let him pass, did they not think about the consequences? At this moment, Han Fei was still at the front. If he retreated with Pan Lydian's ability, he would definitely bypass the others and kill the lords at the back. It was already remarkable that they could cultivate to the Pioneer Sea realm. If so many lords died, the city of wanderers would suffer a great loss. Therefore he shouted, "Pan Lydian, take my punch." At this moment, Ma Qianquan shouted from the back, "Brother Ren, be careful. The sky-breaking seal is not a joke." However, when had Han Fei ever backed down? Even if his strength was not at its peak, when he activated the Great Path, he was still extremely terrifying. He had killed an emperor single-handedly before. He also wanted to see how strong the so-called leader of the 10 Great Lords was. Han Fei activated the World of Dharma, but it was not as big as before. With the activation of the Great Path, his combat strength was 5 times more violent. With Han Fei's current physique, he could withstand such a high-intensity outburst. When the punch was launched, an invincible aura burst out from the endless void. The golden light was dazzling and illuminated the sea. Pan Lydian narrowed his eyes slightly. A person who walks the path of invincibility? What? The path of invincibility? I didn't expect Brother Ren to walk this path. Brother Ren, you're so bold. Those who dare to walk the path of invincibility are all heroes of their generation. None of these people are afraid of death. Ma Qianquan and the others were also stunned by Han Fei's punch. When the 10,000 feet long fist mark hit the sky-breaking seal, the void within 10,000 miles collapsed. The endless void turned into a vortex, and the rolling ripples swept out for hundreds of thousands of miles. At the back, the lords all retreated. How could such a scene be seen normally? Some of them had seen Han Fei's fist mark before. There was even a hint of confusion in their eyes. They almost fell into an epiphany. Ka-cha, the void sky-surging seal, centered on Han Fei's dazzling fist, quickly cracked, and its momentum was weakened by more than half. However, the sky-blazing seal didn't collapse. This scene made Han Fei's heart turn cold. Even such a violent attack couldn't shatter the sky-blazing seal? Behind him, Ma Qianquan shouted, "Brother Ren, Old Ma, will lend you a hand." Roar. Perhaps the people of Wanderer City were all ferocious. The seawater within 500 kilometers around Ma Qianquan boiled. His twin axes stirred up the ocean's water, and they carried lightning as they charged toward Pan Lydian. Wu Qinghua also exploded. With her body as the center, 2 rows of white bone sabers appeared in the sky, like two rows of sabers, surrounded by immortal chi. The saber formation sealed off the path in an attempt to slash Pan Lydian. The other three sovereigns didn't have time to worry about the kings behind them. All of them ignited their blood and erupted. One person gathered half of his Taoist rhymes and a vast amount of immortal chi, turning into a spike that pierced through the sea. One of them was followed by a ferocious tide of fish. Using the tide as an arrow, he shot towards the azure dragon that was whistling over. You're overestimating yourselves. You're just a bunch of sky-splitting cultivators who haven't even transformed into stars. Do you think you're worthy of fighting me? Dragon God strike. The azure dragon spat out extreme frost ice flames toward the sovereigns. The place was completely destroyed. The seawater raged, and the surface of the sea completely collapsed. Terrifying shockwaves surged into the sky. Ma Qianquan's 3,000 winds and thunderbolts, and the sky-splitting axe light were all shattered. The storm froze midway, and he was sent flying. If not for his immortal chi protecting him, he would have been frozen into an ice sculpture. Crack, crack, crack. Frost and snow drifted in Wu Qinghua's saber formation. Wherever the ice flames passed, the scimitars shattered. Blarg! Wu Qinghua spat out a mouthful of blood. Her hands were pulverized, and she was sent flying. The other three sovereigns were not faring any better. The spike was frozen in layers. It could no longer move forward when it was 500 kilometers away from Pan Lydian. It crumbled and exploded. The fish tide formation was also completely destroyed. It was the weakest among the sovereigns. The arrow was the only attack that managed to reach Pan Lydian. However, when the arrow hit Pan Lydian's bright red armor, the latter did not even block it. It was because the arrow had lost its power when it reached Pan Lydian. It could not break his defense at all. Ma Qianquan and the other four sovereigns were all defeated in one attack, and this was only the leader of the 10 lords. Zhao Honghuang, who was even more powerful than this person, was unimaginably powerful. At this moment, a azure dragon ice flame swept toward Han Fei. Han Fei's heart sank when he realized that his attack did not penetrate the heaven-forsaken seal. He had to take it out even if the others could not. Otherwise, he would lose at least 2 heaven-splitting sovereigns even if he could escape. Han Fei flipped his hand and took out the Phoenix Feather Manic saber. The azure sea red appeared on the saber, and 1,000 wisps of immortal chi were injected into the saber. Fire waves turned the sea within 1,000 kilometers into a sea of magma. Han Fei never fell behind when it came to using a saber. Han Fei spun a few times, and his Dharma projection also held a 1,000-meter-long fiery saber. It slashed down, and the sea was split apart. A divine artifact? Interesting. No wonder they could destroy several cities. You're a variable. I'll kill you then. Pan Lydian watched his azure dragon ice flame being penetrated, but he did not take it seriously. He reached out and took back all his tools. Then he stomped his foot. Heaven-forsaken sea suppression, heaven destruction slaying sovereigns. Above Han Fei, the heaven-forsaken seal continued to crush, and its power was increasing crazily. Han Fei felt the pressure of the heavenly way. Pan Lydian had integrated the heavenly way into his body and was trying to kill him with the heavenly way. In the distance, the sovereigns who had just stopped flying watched this scene in horror. They were also shocked. Pan Lydian's strength was comparable to Wanderer City's 4 great generals. No matter which city in the chaotic wasteland he was in, his combat prowess was at the pinnacle. Pan Lydian was as powerful as Wanderer City's 4 great generals. Even outside the chaotic wasteland, in the divine East Sea, and among the heaven-splitting sovereigns, Pan Lydian was the best. However, they knew too little about Ren Tianfei. In their minds, only the 4 great generals could stop an expert like Pan Lydian. They had never heard of Ren Tianfei. As for the kings of the city of wanderers, they were even more horrified. Someone was shocked. Is this the leader of the 10 lords of the city of scavengers? He repelled 5 sovereigns with 1 blow. Even Senior Human Emperor is no match for him? Not necessarily. Senior Human Emperor killed 5 sovereigns in a row. How can he be defeated so easily? The heaven-forsaken seal can't suppress him. However, the kings all looked gloomy. They all knew that it wasn't wise to argue at this moment. Han Fei seemed to be struggling. Even Han Fei himself couldn't believe it. He felt a little exhausted. What the fuck is this Li Tian seal? Isn't it a bit too fierce? My physique is strong, and my strength is fierce. Can I smash this thing? Han Fei knew that it wasn't that he was weak, but that his opponent had borrowed the power of the heavenly way. Ho! Han Fei roared. Golden light flowed on his body, and a golden eye opened between his eyebrows. Eye of the invincible, open. Sacrificing, fist mark. Bam! Rumble. The cracks on the heaven-forsaken seal expanded, but it seemed to be a little short of breaking. Dragon transformation technique. Now that things had come to this, Han Fei no longer cared about holding back. A drop of Azure Dragon's essence blood was shattered, and one of his arms turned into a dragon claw. At that moment, the heaven-forsaken seal was forcefully penetrated. It was probably the first time that Pan Litian's heaven-forsaken seal was penetrated by someone with strength. God knew how powerful that person was. It's penetrated. It's penetrated, the kings at the back exclaimed. Their faces were full of joy, and their hearts were filled with pride. However, Han Fei roared, "Retreat quickly. I'll cover you." Ma Qiankuan, Wu Qinghua, and the others who had just come back to their senses did not dare to hesitate. They were not on the same level as Pan Lydian at all. Han Fei was the only one who could fight Pan Lydian, but they could tell that Han Fei was having a hard time. In the blink of an eye, Wu Qinghua's body flashed, and her origin sea opened up, directly storing all the kings inside. Then, Wu Qinghua yelled, "Brother Ren, I'm sorry." Ma Qiankuan's blood was boiling. Brother Ren, will go first. They didn't dare to stay any longer. The longer they stayed, the more danger Han Fei would be in. At this moment, Han Fei felt that his body could not take it anymore. The power that his body could bear was so strong that even his jade bones could not take it anymore. His flesh and blood were already cracking. Pan Lydian did not chase after Ma Qiankuan and the others. In his opinion, even 10 Ma Qiankuans were no match for one Ren Tianfei. This person was not even a star warrior, but his strength was already so strong. More importantly, he could bear such a strong force. If such a person did not die, he would definitely grow into a powerhouse as strong as the 4 great generals. Pan Lydian snorted. Do you really think you can escape from me after penetrating the heaven-forsaken seal? 9 dragons unite into one, Emperor Sword. At that moment, Han Fei was horrified. What the hell? One of the 10 great lords could unleash the battle prowess of an emperor? No, not the battle prowess of an emperor. I'm just imitating it. Do you think you can unleash the battle prowess of an emperor? I'll do it too. Han Fei grabbed thousands of strands of immortal spiritual energy and pointed at them. The great way became one, and the sword intent became mysterious. However, Han Fei added a drop of green sword liquid to this attack. This thing was the infinite sword liquid, the origin of sword intent born in the Emperor Sword embryo. It was the only Emperor-level treasure he obtained from He Daoyuan's origin sea. Han Fei roared, "The great way becomes one." Chapter 2157. While Ma Qiankuan and the others were running, their communication jade slips shattered. They felt terrible. Why didn't you shatter it earlier? If you did, we wouldn't have to face Pan Lydian, and Brother Ren wouldn't have to stay behind for us. While Ma Qiankuan and the others were retreating, a white light suddenly appeared. Qinghua, why are you running away with blood on your hands? The newcomer had white hair and sharp eyes. Although she was a woman, she was so heroic that people couldn't help but want to hide in front of her. Wu Qinghua and the others were running away with blood on their hands. They all stopped when they saw the newcomer. Wu Qinghua and Ma Qiankuan's eyes lit up. Wu Qinghua quickly said, "Lady Qingxi, why are you here?" The newcomer was Duan Qingxi, who came out of the primitive graveyard almost at the same time as Han Fei. The difference was that Han Fei was taken away by the Emperor of 10,000 Scales, while Duan Qingxi was sent away by the Master of Silence's historical projection. In fact, not long after they left the primitive graveyard, the Master of Silence's historical projection couldn't be kept anymore. Duan Qingxi had to travel the latter half by herself. But Han Fei didn't have to. The Emperor of 10,000 Scales sent him out of the sea, so he had to travel faster. At this moment, Duan Qingxi had just come out and was about to fly to the nearest scavenger city. However, when she passed one city, she found that the emperor there had been slaughtered. When she passed 2 cities, the emperor there had also been slaughtered. When she passed several cities, she found that the emperor in those cities had all been slaughtered. To be honest, Duan Qingxi was confused. When did the city of wanderers become so strong? The war had just started, right? If one lord of the 10,000 Scales was killed, it might be because of their strength. Perhaps it was a coincidence. But 3, 4, 5, all of them came one after the other. This was a little hard to understand. However, before she could figure out the reason, she saw Wu Qinghua and the others who were running away. Ma Qianquan quickly said, "Lady Qingxi, go and save Brother Ren." To cover our retreat, he fought Pan Lydian, the leader of the 10 lords, alone. Go back, or it'll be too late. Duan Qingxi was confused. "Who? Which Brother Ren?" Ma Qianquan exclaimed, "Human Emperor Ren Tianfei. Didn't he participate in my master's secret mission with you?" Human Emperor Ren Tianfei? Duan Qingxi was dumbfounded. "I don't know this person." Suddenly, Ma Qianquan, Wu Qinghua, and the others were all confused. How could they not recognize him? Wu Qinghua was dumbfounded. "Brother Ren led us to kill 5 Emperor Realm experts. Lady Qingxi, did he use another name when he was with you?" Duan Qingxi's heart skipped a beat. She knew there was something wrong with this guy. She was acting alone, so how could there be a teammate? However, no matter what, this person would rather fight Pan Lydian and cover Ma Qianquan and the others' escape. Hence, he should save him. Duan Qingxi shouted, "Let's walk and talk." "Where is he?" At Scavenger Farm 93, Han Fei had no idea who Ma Qianquan and the rest would run into, but he was currently being beaten up badly. "Pan Lydian is too powerful. I don't think I can defeat him." At this moment, the Tao Convergence was already Han Fei's strongest means. Even so, he was not sure if he could withstand the Emperor's sword. Pan Lydian was surprised as well. He could not help but frown when he saw Han Fei's sword. Han Fei's attack was very powerful. He felt that there were many Taoist auras in it, and there was even a hint of the heavenly Tao hidden in it. Coupled with the burst of tens of thousands of immortal spiritual qi, ordinary emperors wouldn't be able to resist it at all. Based on Han Fei's sword alone, Pan Lydian was certain that this man might be qualified to become one of the 10 great feudal lords. Of course, not now, but when Han Fei could exert such combat power at will. Pan Lydian had a bad feeling about this because the drop of origin of sword intent that Han Fei had infused into his sword had greatly strengthened the power of his sword. Ding, as the sword intent rippled, it caused the ice within hundreds of thousands of kilometers to collapse. Where the swords met, a black hole appeared in the endless void. At that instant, Pan Lydian saw a flash of golden light. When he looked around, he discovered Han Fei was already 600,000 miles away. He was fleeing madly. Ran away. Pan Lydian was speechless. "You've unleashed everything you could, and now you're running away? Do you still have the bearing of a powerhouse?" Pan Lydian was about to give chase when he sensed someone else's senses sweeping toward him. Who else could it be but Duan Qingxi? Duan Qingxi also glanced at the golden light that Han Fei had left. She thought to herself, "He's pretty strong to be able to escape from Pan Lydian." "Duan Qingxi?" Pan Lydian frowned. Where did this strand of hair come from? At this moment, Duan Qingxi looked at the terrifying power that had just erupted. She could not imagine when Wanderer City had such a powerhouse. He had a peerless physique, and he had a heaven and earth manifestation. He could charge into the enemy's source sea and return safely. If such a person existed, how could she not know about him? However, when she saw the terrifying aftermath of the battle between this person and Pan Lydian, she was even more confused. This person was definitely not from Wanderer City. Even in Wanderer City, there were only a few people who could fight Pan Lydian to this extent. Moreover, this person had told Ma Qianquan and the others that he had gone on a secret mission with her. It turned out that she had been used. Naturally, Duan Qingxi did not have the time to care about that person. Judging from the last scene after he escaped, he seemed to have been severely injured. This person had golden blood flowing in his veins. He did not shed a single drop of blood even as he ran. He was a ruthless person. Pan Lydian snorted coldly. One escaped, and here comes another. Duan Qingxi, I didn't see you at the front line. But have you fallen to the point of bullying the weak scavengers? Duan Qingxi's eyes turned cold. She had come back to rescue people. Now that that person had run away, there was no need for her to rescue him. The transmission jade slip had shattered, which meant that the army had retreated. This was not the time to fight Pan Lydian. Duan Qingxi said coldly, this is the consequence of Scavenger City interfering in the battle between Wanderer City and Primitive City. Wanderers are never afraid to fight. Pan Lydian narrowed his eyes and said, I heard that the Silent Lord is also from the human race. Aren't you afraid that we'll attack the human race here? Duan Qingxi smiled disdainfully. Do you dare? Have you forgotten about the battle where the Wanderers attacked the primordial city? After saying that, Duan Qingxi left in a dignified manner. Pan Lydian did not intend to attack. Pan Lydian knew clearly that Duan Qingxi was different from Ren Tianfei, who had run away. Ren Tianfei had relied on secret techniques, treasured skills, and treasures to forcefully increase his strength and unleash one or two powerful attacks. However, Duan Qingxi was different. She was one of the 4 great generals of Wanderer City. She was truly powerful and was not weaker than him. He could fight her alone, but it was almost impossible for him to defeat her. Several hours later, in a remote area of Scavenger City, Ma Qianquan and the others were waiting for Duan Qingxi. When they saw Duan Qingxi, they went up to her. Lady Qingxi, how is it? Where's Brother Ren? When they saw that Duan Qingxi had returned alone, their hearts sank. Duan Qingxi was speechless. A mere stranger managed to steal your souls in just a few hours? Ma Qianquan said, well, aren't we fellow cultivators? I even bragged to Brother Ren. Duan Qingxi said angrily, when I arrived, that guy had already run away and I missed him. If this person is from my Wanderer City, then I will definitely be able to find him on this trip. What I'm afraid of is that he is not from Vagrant City at all. Wu Qinghua said, how is that possible? He is a genuine human. If he is not from us, which side is he from? Duan Qingxi said, have you ever thought that he is from Primitive City? Ma Qianquan shouted, how can there be such a manly sovereign in Primitive City? Slap, a white hair swept past, and Ma Qianquan was sent flying. Duan Qingxi said with a dark face, he calls himself the human sovereign. What if this is just an excuse for him to emphasize his identity so that Scavenger City will know that Vagrant City is extremely arrogant and it will incur the hatred of the 10,000 Scale tribe? If the 10,000 Scale tribe attacks the humans here, with my master's identity and temper, will he fight a life-and-death battle with Scavenger City? Hiss, Ma Qianquan and the others were all horrified. They had never thought that there might be such a deep meaning. Duan Qingxi said, hatred will deepen. This man massacred 5 cities in a row. What did he leave for you? What did he leave except for hundreds of millions of energy crystals? Everybody looked at each other in bewilderment. If what Duan Qingxi said was true, then this Ren Tianfei was indeed very cunning. I really believed him. Duan Qingxi said, let's go. We must have suffered a great loss in this battle. Boss is dealing with Primitive City. We have to return to Vagrant City as soon as possible. On the other side, Han Fei cast 7 or 8 heavenly awakening divine techniques on himself and consumed about 3,000 years of vitality. Then he finally recovered with a pale face. Too powerful. Pan Lytian's attack was too powerful. It pierced through the universe of laws, the infinity water, and the Tao convergent sword. If it weren't for his sturdy body and numerous magic treasures, he would have been killed by Pan Lydian. Under such circumstances, if he had been killed by Pan Lydian, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Gudu. At this moment, Han Fei was almost at Mountain City. Luckily, he saw Duan Qingxi at the last moment. Otherwise, he might not have been able to escape if he ran into an expert like Pan Lydian. Chapter 2158. When he arrived at the mountain city, it wasn't any better. As he expected, without Xue Fei's protection, almost all the kings here were slaughtered. None of Han Fei's more than 20 puppets were left. They were all gone. Fortunately, there were basically no casualties among the experts below the king level in the mountain city. It seemed that the Wanderer city still had some leeway. Otherwise, if the Emperor of 10,000 Scales was pushed too far, the 10,000 Scales tribe might start a war or even massacre the humans. The 10,000 Scales tribe probably didn't do that because they didn't want to go too far. If they went too far with the crazy personality of the Wanderer city, they would fight to the death, and the Master of Silence would probably do it himself. By then, apart from the Emperor of 10,000 Scales, who else in the 10,000 Scales tribe could resist the attack of an emperor? Hong Yu. He saw Hong Yu sitting in a courtyard, thinking about life. Yes, he was thinking about life. He only felt that this sea realm was too dangerous. There were more than 20 king tiers, and they had said they would do it. Furthermore, they were led by a heaven-opening expert. In just a moment, Han Fei's more than 20 puppets were all gone. Hong Yu remembered that someone asked him if he wanted to go to the Wanderer city with them. Hong Yu said righteously, "I have to protect my people. I can't leave." Seeing that Hong Yu had made up his mind, the other party didn't force him. Someone even suggested that he could take his people with him. Hong Yu's answer was straightforward. You can take down one city or one land, but you can't take down all the cities. The humans in the Scavenger Sea area are actually hostages, the only reason why the war between the Wanderer city and the Scavenger city hasn't broken out. Once this foundation is broken, the real war will break out. If the humans can't evacuate at once, then don't evacuate. Hong Yu's words were actually acknowledged by the emperor who attacked Shan City. That emperor even left him a sum of resources. Actually, Hong Yu's words could only be understood by those in high positions. Hong Yu used to be the master of the Berserk Corps Sky. He had seen all kinds of intrigues. From the layout of the Scavenger City that Han Fei had told them before, he knew that the 10,000 Scale clan, which could become the overlord of a region and stand tall in the chaotic wasteland for hundreds of thousands of years, must have some capabilities. Otherwise, they would have been annihilated long ago. If the Wanderer city attacked, they wouldn't be able to take down the entire city. Moreover, they would suffer heavy losses at the expense of the enemy. Otherwise, with just one attack, hundreds of cities would have been flattened. How could there still be a Scavenger City here? In fact, just as Hong Yu had expected, the Wanderer city's surprise attack was mostly accomplished by the lower-ranked cities. The higher a city's ranking was, the more powerful its lord was, and the more difficult it was to kill them. At most, both sides' sea expansion realm experts would be injured. In fact, among the peak combatants, Duan Qingxi of the Four Great Generals and the Master of the Four Great Generals were not present. Among the remaining two, the strongest one had to deal with Zhao Honghuang, while the last one had to guard against the 10 Great Lords. Therefore, the targets of the Wanderer city's raid this time were the cities ranked after 50. As for the top 50 cities, they didn't care about them at all. This was also the reason why Pan Lydian could leave the front line and appear in the number 93 breeding ground. In this case, although they could take away a large number of humans in the rear, it would take time to take away a large number of humans while fighting. Besides, there were more than 10,000 territories in the Scavenger Sea area. How could the Wanderer city send more than 10,000 sea expansion realm experts to take away the humans in the villages while attacking the cities? When Han Fei appeared in Hong Yu's courtyard, the latter shuddered and hurried to get up. "Your Majesty, the lords have died." "I really have no choice," Han Fei waved his hand. "It doesn't matter. They're just puppets. When the main city sends another batch of sea expansion realm kings over, they'll all be your puppets." "Huh." Seeing that Hong Yu was dumbfounded, Han Fei said, "Let me tell you a secret. The Wanderer city is an ally. The Emperor of the Wanderer city is the human king of the chaotic sea, the one who successfully crossed the east. If I'm not mistaken, you should know him, right?" Hong Yu gasped and was dumbfounded. Gu Tingnan? Hong Yu was actually very experienced. He had already become a venerable when the human king crossed the east. However, he didn't expect that the human king had established the Wanderer City with his own hands. Han Fei said, "When I learned his identity, I wondered if it was necessary for you to go to the Wanderer City. However, I don't think you want to go there. In that place, apart from knowing Gu Tingnan, you are nothing. There are many experts there, and the identity of an old acquaintance won't allow you to develop well. He also won't give you any extra care. However, the Scavenger City has great potential." Hong Yu recalled the scene when those people attacked the city and couldn't help but smile. Yes, the Scavenger City is full of enemies. It's indeed more suitable for me. Han Fei said, "I'm going to the Scavenger City again later. If everything goes well, I'll bring a batch of people back. Be prepared to receive them." Hong Yu was immediately refreshed. "I won't let you down." Although Hong Yu didn't know what Han Fei was planning, he knew that he would be able to show his strength in the Scavenger City. The reason why Hong Yu wasn't strong enough was that he didn't have enough materials to refine corpses. Han Fei probably wanted him to take control of a city. That was the key training. He felt that as long as he didn't die, his rise would be inevitable. Besides, Hong Yu knew Han Fei's personality. This was a lunatic who unified the chaotic ocean in just a few hundred years. He was the human king and a real heavenly talent. Once Han Fei rose in the chaotic wasteland, Hong Yu might be the only one who followed him. Han Fei just felt that it was necessary to tell Hong Yu that the Lord of Silence was Gu Tingnen, the human king. This wasn't a secret, or he wouldn't have known it so easily. Besides, Gu Tingnen claimed the throne as a human and fell out with the Scavenger City. These were all very obvious things, and he never tried to hide anything. Of course, that was because Gu Tingnan had already proven his Dao. When he first came out, his situation wasn't any better than Han Fei's. Han Fei guessed that Gu Tingnan had already gone to the East Sea Divine Prefecture. Otherwise, how could he have built a Wanderer City? However, there was still one thing that Han Fei didn't understand. It seemed that Gu Tingnan was the emperor who helped the Beast King and Chu Hao deal with the two emperors of the Yin family. However, Han Fei still felt that something was wrong. 100,000 years ago, when the humans marched east, how could Gu Tingnan have escaped from the 10,000 Scales race? From Xue Fei's memory, it seemed that some powerful people helped the human ship, which was why some people could escape. Then, who was the person who helped Gu Tingnan? Although Han Fei wanted to know the answer, he wasn't in a hurry. He would talk to Gu Tingnan when the time was right, but not now. Right now, Gu Tingnan was the Lord of Silence, the city lord of the Wanderer City. He was extremely powerful. How could Han Fei use his current strength to talk to the two human emperors? After this battle, Han Fei guessed that neither the 10,000 Scales Emperor nor the two emperors of the Yin family could stand Gu Tingnan's madness. So, there shouldn't be any problems in the chaotic ocean in a short time. After sorting out his thoughts, Han Fei turned into a bracelet again, and Xue Fei reappeared. Han Fei pretended to be Xue Fei, shouted a few times, and then went to the Scavenger City. If there were no accidents, the Scavenger City would change a lot this time. First of all, as far as Han Fei knew, 10 cities in the Scavenger City had been destroyed. Among them, Mountain City was under his control, and the number 101 breeding base was obviously under Duan Qingxi's control. Zhang Wei and Long Yunfeng died, and the 5 heaven-opening state experts that he slaughtered added up to 8. 2 days later, Xue Fei returned to the Scavenger City again. There were also some Sea Expansion Realm experts who had come with him. These people had been sent by the other overlords to ask Zhao Honghuang for people. However, those lords didn't come, and they still had a lot of messes to clean up. How could they have the time to come? But Xue Fei was different. He was asked to rest in the Scavenger City by the 10,000 Scales Emperor. In fact, it was more like a reward. No matter whether he did a good job or not, at least Xue Fei didn't disgrace the 10,000 Scales clan. Seeing that the 10,000 Scales Emperor didn't send him a voice transmission after he entered the city, Han Fei didn't know if the 10,000 Scales Emperor was not here, so he went to find Zhao Honghuang first. A moment later, Han Fei stood outside the undersea jungle where Zhao Honghuang lived. Xue Fei, the lord of the Scavenger City, Mountain City, request to see Master Hong Huang. Those Sea Expansion State experts could only go to the law enforcement camp to ask for Gu Tingnan and wait for the news. Han Fei went to Zhao Honghuang directly, which was the privilege of a lord. However, Zhao Honghuang directly responded, "The emperor asked you to go to the holy city directly. After meeting the emperor, go to the law enforcement camp to choose someone." Shui pretended to be flattered and quickly responded, "Yes, Master Honghuang." Chapter 2159. Although Han Fei had met Emperor 10,000 Scales once, it was just a hasty meeting. Perhaps Emperor 10,000 Scales didn't pay attention to him, so Emperor 10,000 Scales didn't notice anything wrong. But this time, before Han Fei came, he knew that he might meet Emperor 10,000 Scales. Even so, Han Fei still controlled Shui Fei to come. Of course, his black fog body was still far away, and he had already prepared sufficient countermeasures. He wanted to bet that Emperor 10,000 Scales couldn't see through his disguise and the puppet he controlled. In Han Fei's opinion, an emperor was strong, but there should be a limit. This test would determine whether Han Fei could establish a foothold in Scavenger City. The sacred ground of Scavenger City was the place where Emperor 10,000 Scales cultivated. However, in Shui Fei's impression, Emperor 10,000 Scales rarely resided in the city. Usually it was Zhao Honghuang, and no one knew whether Emperor 10,000 Scales was here or not. There was a lone peak in the sacred ground, and various ordinary sea creatures swam around it. This peak was 100,000 feet tall, and there was a small palace made of black crystals on it. Shui Fei came to the foot of the peak and bowed. Subordinate Shui Fei greets the emperor. Shui Fei lowered his head and waited for more than 10 seconds. Suddenly he heard a voice, "Raise your head." Hearing this, Han Fei suddenly realized something was wrong. When he controlled Shui Fei to raise his head, he was shocked. He didn't move at all, and there was no spatial fluctuation around him. But he went from the foot of the peak to the palace on top of the peak. Han Fei couldn't help but be surprised. An emperor's means are so strong that even a heaven-opening stage can't detect it? At this moment, even though Han Fei was only in the form of a bracelet, he didn't dare to look at Emperor 10,000 Scales. To prevent himself from being discovered, he could only look through Shui Fei's eyes. Seeing the scene change, Shui Fei raised his head again, and his body trembled. He said again, "Subordinate Shui Fei is here to ask for forgiveness." Emperor 10,000 Scales snorted, "What crime?" Shui Fei braced himself and said, "I couldn't protect the others. It's a huge crime to live alone." The 10,000 Scales great emperor sat on the throne with a dignified appearance. He said, "You don't mean what you say. Being able to survive Duan Qingxi's attack and avoid the projection of the Silent Master and the Clan's venerable emperor, you should be proud of yourself, right?" This subordinate wouldn't dare. The emperor of 10,000 Scales said sternly, "All right. Such petty tricks are being used on this emperor in an invisible manner. Your strength is ordinary, but why did you kill 3 emperors in a row?" Shui hurriedly said, "Reporting to the great emperor, this subordinate's Tao of nightmares has improved." It was a pity that his physique and spiritual power were still lacking. He was able to kill Rinhuang because of the help of Zhang Wei, Long Yunfeng, and Zhang Li. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to kill 3 emperors by myself. The 10,000 Scales emperor nodded slightly. Shui Fei wasn't lying. If he could kill 3 sovereigns by himself, he would at least be ranked in the top 20 among the overlords. He wouldn't be ranked 80th. The 10,000 Scales emperor said, "You have seen the Silent Master and the 2 emperors of the primordial city. When you returned, you should have heard about the Wanderer city attacking the Scavenger territorial waters. Tell me, how do you feel?" Shui Fei was moved. He wouldn't comment on the venerable emperor level. However, he turned around and said, "Reporting to the great emperor. This subordinate has passed through several cities and found that a large number of Expansion Sea realm experts have fallen. However, the casualties below the Expansion Sea realm are minimal. This subordinate thinks that the Silent Master is afraid of the great emperor's might and doesn't dare to start a real war. Otherwise, he would definitely massacre the cities and destroy the foundation of the experts of the scavenger city. Once the citizens perish, the experts of the 10,000 Scales tribe will be cut off. The 10,000 Scales Emperor sized up Xue Fei and thought, "This kid is quite knowledgeable." Continue. Xue Fei continued, "As long as the Wanderer City doesn't dare to start a real war, we don't have to worry too much about them. This subordinate thinks that we are most likely implicated by the Primordial City when the Wanderers attack this time." After saying that, Xue Fei raised his head and looked at the 10,000 Scales Emperor, as if he wanted to see his reaction and act according to the situation. However, the 10,000 Scales Emperor had a solemn expression. Continue. Xue Fei could only bite the bullet and said, "Although this trip to the primordial tomb is a trap, there is obviously another trap within this trap. This subordinate walks the path of nightmare. After meeting the sovereigns of the primordial city, I set up a 9-layered nightmare. I know that they really want to kill us and they don't want others to know about this. Secondly, from the conversation between you and the Silent Master, it seems like the Great Emperor has just participated in this war." This subordinate is thinking, if the Great Emperor didn't participate in this war, what would the result be? The 10,000 Scales Emperor was slightly moved. He had also thought of this question. If he didn't participate in this war, the Wanderer City would most likely fight their way to the Primordial City. The Silent Master mastered the Heaven Awakening Divine Technique and was basically an unkillable cockroach. If he attacked the Primordial City again, he would definitely kill at least a dozen sky-opening divine techniques. If he really fought like that, the Wanderer City wouldn't be any better off. At that time, the Scavenger City would be the fishermen who reaped the benefits. However, because of his participation, the Wanderer City directly started a war of such a scale. The meaning of this warning was far greater than the enmity between the two sides. Xue Fei continued, "This subordinate is thinking that the conflict between you and the Wanderer City is just because of the human race. Even if the starting ground really had some shocking secret, it was still not enough. The bigger the secret, the greater the war between the Primordial City and the Wanderer City. The more intense the war between them, the more beneficial it is for the Scavenger City." The 10,000 Scales Emperor seemed to have thought about what Xue Fei said. Hence, he didn't have any reaction when he heard Xue Fei's guess. He said solemnly, "Okay, you have to completely forget about this matter. Don't mention it to anyone, understand?" Xue Fei naturally nodded. "This subordinate will definitely keep it a secret. I won't say a word to anyone." The 10,000 Scales Emperor nodded in satisfaction. "Although you didn't succeed this time, you did well. However, the cultivation of the heaven-opening state is mainly about understanding the great Tao. Lords like you don't lack resources. I will reward you with a piece of black soil and a heavenly Tao pill. As for what you can achieve, it's up to you." Xue pretended to be overjoyed and hurriedly said, "Thank you for the reward, Your Majesty." After receiving the piece of black soil and the glittering pill, Han Fei put them away without looking at them carefully. "Okay, you can go. Zhao Honghuang told me that you're nurturing a good seedling. When you are done, go to the number 68 farm to be the Lord." Xue Fei was overjoyed again. "Thank you, Your Majesty." As soon as Han Fei finished speaking, he had already appeared outside the sacred ground. When he completely left the sacred ground, he secretly despised in his heart, "It's just a piece of black soil and a pill, and you think you can send me away? How stingy. As for the number 68 farm, it's not bad if you give it to me." In addition, since they were asking him to pick people, the stronger the better. The Scavenger City's law enforcement camp was usually guarded by the Scavenger City. They were the experts that emerged after many rounds of selection. In the law enforcement camp, there were two kinds of experts. One was the sea-opening realm experts of the 10,000 Scales tribe, and the other was the experts of other races that surrendered to the 10,000 Scales tribe. As for talent selection, the 10,000 Scales tribe maintained the characteristic of focusing on their own race. Usually, they would only look for the experts of their own race. Unless they saw a particularly outstanding expert from another race, they wouldn't want them. In the entire law enforcement camp, there were more than 30,000 sea opening realm experts permanently stationed there. In fact, there were more than that. Most of them were either in trials, carrying out missions, or patrolling around the city. When Han Fei arrived, he didn't need to reveal his identity. Someone had already recognized him. A heaven-opening realm drill master of the law enforcement camp grinned and said, "Mr. Xue Fei, Master Primordial has already told me. You can pick any sea-opening realm experts here." Although Han Fei wasn't familiar with this person, he vaguely remembered that his name was Chen Yen. Xue Fei smiled and said, "Brother Chen, can I really pick anyone I want?" Chen Yen laughed. "Master Primordial has told you. Of course you can pick anyone you want. How about it? Do you want me to pick for you? To be honest, I have a batch of excellent seedlings here, but I'm reluctant to give them away. Only Brother Xue can win Master Primordial's favor. Otherwise, I wouldn't tell anyone else." Xue Fei grinned. "Thank you, Brother Chen. How many people can I pick?" Chen Yen said, 20. Xue Fei couldn't help but frown. "Only 20? All the sea-opening realm experts in my city are dead except for my right-hand men." Chen Yen patted Han Fei on the shoulder and said, "Brother Xue, 20 is not a small number. Do you know how many lords have come to ask for people? Even if all of them have been wiped out, I can only give you 15. Brother Xue, with Master Primordial's special instructions, I can only give you this number." Xue Fei nodded slightly. It was estimated that a lot of experts had died in the major cities this time. There were dozens of cities, and each city had lost 3 to 5 sea-opening realm experts, so they had to give him 300 to 500 sea-opening realm experts. Unlike venerables, sea-opening realm experts were not so easy to train. 300 to 500 people were indeed a lot. In the chaotic ocean sea, 300 to 500 kings would be unthinkable. So, Xue Fei said, "Okay, thank you, Brother Chen, but I'd better take a look myself first." Chen Yen said, "Brother Xue, feel free. You can take anyone you like. By the way, Brother Xue, I have a few good human female cultivators here. You can decide for yourself." Chapter 2160. Han Fei's heart sank. What does Chen Yen mean? Human female cultivators are also at the Pioneer Sea realm. Have they been reduced to such a state? Han Fei had come to pick them up happily. After all, the 10,000 scale clan had many Pioneer Sea realm experts. It was equivalent to him bringing back 20 king's puppets, which was equivalent to bringing disaster to 20 10,000 scaled tribe experts. But now Han Fei's mind changed. Xue Fei grinned. "Oh, is there such a good thing? Brother Chen, take me to them." Chen Yen grinned too. With a meaningful look in his eyes, he said in a low voice, "Brother Xue, although they are human female cultivators, most of them have a bad temper. Moreover, you can't choose too many. 5 is already a backdoor that I, your brother, specially opened for you. If it were someone else, there would be no room for negotiation." Han Fei immediately cupped his fists. "Brother Chen, my good brother, if you ever come to my city, I'll try my best to entertain you." The two looked at each other and smiled. In fact, Chen Yen was cursing in his heart. "I said I'd give you 5, and you really want them? Son of a bitch, I should have told you 3. What a waste." Scavenger law enforcement camp. In the scavenger city, if you wanted to be strong, you had to become stronger at all costs. However, there was a group of people who were different, namely human cultivators. In the entire law enforcement camp, human cultivators accounted for less than 5%, or even less than 5%. Because under the oppression of the 10,000 scale clan and the cultivation pressure of the human villages, it was very difficult for them to advance to the Pioneer Sea realm. Different from the Pioneer Sea realm, it was very difficult for venerables to advance to the Pioneer Sea realm. This was the same in both the chaotic vast sea and the sea realm. Take the mountain city for example. There were nearly 1 million venerables, but how many king-level cultivators were there? Anyway, Han Fei only saw about 20. Maybe the number of king-level cultivators would be higher, including those sent to the main city, but Han Fei didn't think there would be more than 50. Even if there were 50, there would be only one Pioneer Sea Realm cultivator out of more than 10,000 people. Perhaps it was because Mountain City was ranked at the bottom, but the ratio of kings would not increase too much. At most, there would be systematic training, trials, and life and death battles of the law enforcement camp. This kind of high-intensity squeezing might be able to double or triple the rate of becoming a king. If one wanted more, they would have to rely on time and aptitude. At this moment, in the law enforcement camp, at the human gathering place, several human female cultivators were discussing the path of cultivation. Sister Inoue, I feel like my jade immortal art has reached its end. Although the energy crystals in the Origin Sea are barely enough, the Origin Sea is still a little misty. Is it because my resources are too limited? The woman known as Inoue had a reserved heroic aura, and her face seemed to have undergone some changes. She sighed softly and said, "It's not just because of the lack of resources. The absorption of primal chaos chi, the conversion of immortal chi, and the strength of one's body all affect one's Origin Sea." After accumulating more energy crystals, he would go to the city to exchange them for various resources during his break. No matter what resource it is, it's better than energy crystals. That person asked, "But how long will it take to exchange? We don't have a lot of energy crystals to begin with. If we exchange, we might be able to exchange for enough to fill a few hundred kilometers of the Origin Sea." Inoue said, "No matter how little it is, we have to exchange slowly. If 1 year is not enough, we will exchange for 100 years. If 100 years is not enough, we will exchange for 1,000 years. Just look at Wenruqing. She has been exchanging for almost 3,000 years. Now, the Origin Sea has already expanded to more than 60,000 kilometers." Not far away, the woman named Wenruqing said, "But first, you have to survive. If there's a chance, you have to exchange your weapons. The most suitable weapon will greatly increase your chances of survival." The other woman let out a long sigh. 3,000 years. It's only 60,000 kilometers. How long will it take to open up a 50,000-kilometer Origin Sea? Wenruqing shook her head slightly. "Don't bite off more than you can chew. If you have enough resources, it might not even take 300 years, but you don't. Besides, opening up a 50,000-kilometer Origin Sea doesn't mean that you have the capital to open the sky. Although you can sense the opportunity to open the sky, if you rashly open the sky, you will definitely die. You won't be able to withstand the lightning tribulation." Inoue said, "So far, on our side, only 3 people have succeeded in opening the sky. It's a pity that they all died carelessly." However, someone heaved a long sigh. "They didn't die carelessly. I think they were murdered. They don't allow us to become stronger at all." "Hush! Don't talk nonsense. Do you know the consequences?" At this moment, a familiar cold shout burst out from the void. "Gather!" Everyone's heart did a flip, and Inoue said, "Not good. Someone must be coming to get us. Try to hide your strength and make yourself look ugly." Swish, swish, swished along with Chen Yan's order, numerous figures instantly got into position. There were a total of 418 people, 352 of whom were men, and only 66 were female human cultivators. Han Fei finally understood why Chen Yan said there were only a few female human cultivators. This ratio was indeed small. Chen Yan said in a cold voice with a ruthless face, "This is Lord Xue Fei of Mountain City. Today, your fortune has arrived. You will be able to follow Lord Xue Fei to his territory and dominate it. Okay, all female cultivators, step out." "Huh!" Instantly, countless people raised their heads. Why only female cultivators? This was not the first time this had happened. How could they not know? Instantly, the human powerhouses looked sullen, but they didn't dare to say anything. Han Fei could even feel their anger, but there was nothing they could do. They could only watch everything happen. Han Fei sighed in his heart. I wonder if they thought this day would come when they came to the city of scavengers to seek opportunities. Therefore, people always had to rely on themselves. The possibility of seeking opportunities by relying on other races was slim. Han Fei even thought to himself, Don't you understand that even if you get some opportunities here and reach the heaven-opening state, so what? How many heaven-opening state powerhouses are there in the 10,000 Scales clan? The 10,000 Scales Emperor is still suppressing them. They have no other choice but to surrender. At this moment, Han Fei could only save as many people as he could. Even though he was the human emperor, he could only endure in this situation. Only when he reached Gu Tingnan's strength would he be able to break the deadlock of the human race being enslaved. In fact, Gu Tingnan was already strong enough, but he couldn't change the situation. Therefore, Han Fei had to be stronger than Gu Tingnan. At this moment, Chen Yan said to Han Fei telepathically, "Look, human beings are like this. They can endure no matter what, but they are very wild. Brother Shui, you'll have to teach them a lesson when you go back." Shui Fei replied, "Of course. They're just a few humans. How can I not take care of them?" Chen Yan said, "Brother Shui, please." Chen Yan meant that Shui Fei should start to choose. Shui Fei glanced at the crowd. Obviously, there was a polarized situation among the female human cultivators. One kind of female cultivators didn't cover themselves at all. Their faces looked extremely beautiful, and some even tried to activate their strength to the peak state. These people seemed to have seen through what Shui Fei wanted to do. They only wanted a chance to leave the scavenger city and develop independently. The other kind was a bit secretive. They didn't seem to want to be enslaved by a wretched lord like Shui Fei. Some of them even deliberately exposed their internal injuries, and some deliberately made themselves ugly. If their facial features were slightly twisted, it wouldn't be considered a disguise. Intuitively, they wouldn't look good. Anyway, for the 10,000 Scales clan, human beings were actually a bit blind. They could only choose the ones that they thought were the best. Even if they could detect the female cultivators who slightly disguised themselves, who would want them if they didn't like their faces? They might as well find a few beautiful and active ones. There were only 66 female cultivators in total. It wouldn't take long for Han Fei to glance at them one by one. Han Fei could almost tell who was stronger and who was weaker at a glance. Therefore, regardless of whether they were willing or not, Han Fei pointed at them and said, that one, and that one. At this moment, Chen Yan said, "Brother Shui, there's a pair of sisters. Their aptitudes are not bad." Han Fei followed Chen Yan's gaze and did see two who looked similar. However, their facial features were slightly twisted, so he didn't notice that they were very similar. The two girls' hearts tightened when they saw Chen Yan and Shui Fei looking at them. They didn't feel good at all. Shui Fei said, "That's them." Chen Yan smiled inwardly. "Stop pretending. Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? What a pity. I was going to train them a bit before sending them out." Who knew what Shui Fei did to catch Master Primeval's attention? Seeing that the five of them had settled, Chen Yan immediately said, "Inyue, Jiangya, Jiangliuyu, Wen Ruqing, Chu Lingyu, you five, enter Lord Shui's origin sea." Immediately, Inyue said, "Sir, Jiangya and Jiangliuyu are just new kings. Their origin sea is less than 30,000 kilometers long. I'm afraid that they'll fall behind Lord Shui's team. Should we replace them with someone else?" Pooh! As Chen Yan snorted, Inyue immediately vomited blood, her face pale. Chen Yan said, "Do you think I don't know what you're thinking? If you dare to question me again, you'll die." Han Fei sneered in his heart. "Chen Yan, right? I'll remember this person. You'll definitely be the number one on the must-kill list in the future." Shui Fei smiled coldly. "You guys hurry up. I'm in a hurry." Relax. Inyue still wanted to speak, but was stopped by Jiangya. "Sister Inyue, let's go." Chapter 2161. Under the furious gazes of the human kings, Shui Fei forcibly took them into his sea of origin. In the scavenger city, the 10,000 Scale clan was the real ruling clan. Besides, Han Fei was a lord, and no one dared to oppose him. The human kings all sighed in their hearts. Such scenes happened again and again, and they had even gotten used to it. If they could, they would really regret coming to the scavenger city. Unfortunately, it was too late to regret now. Most of them were in such a daze that it was impossible for them to split open the sky. Only a few of them could keep their minds steady. And the beautiful female cultivators who tried to persuade Han Fei to choose them just now all turned cold. They had basically suppressed all their emotions. The only thing they wanted to do was to become stronger by any means possible. Chen Yan and Shui Fei left happily. Chen Yan said, "Brother Shui, what about the masters of our clan?" Smiled and said, "Kings of our clan. Not bad. This one is easy to choose." When choosing the 10,000 scale tribes experts, Han Fei had already chosen the strongest ones. Almost all he needed to do was to glance at them and pick them all. After bidding farewell to Chen Yan, Han Fei didn't leave immediately. Instead, he went to the cultivation ground of the scavenger city. As an actor, Han Fei did not know whether he was being watched or not. He had been acting the entire time. And now, as a lord who was relatively weak, when Shui Fei got the black soil and the so-called Heaven Path pill, the first thing he thought about was how to use them. He didn't want to run back to the mountain city to use them immediately. In fact, as Han Fei expected, until he entered this cultivation place in seclusion, there was actually a little bit of attention following him. Zhao Honghuang shook his head slightly. Seeing everything that happened just now, he commented, "You're not worth teaching." The black soil was still useful for Han Fei's Sea of Origin. Such a large piece of black soil could help Han Fei consolidate his Sea of Origin for about 10,000 kilometers, but that was all. Han Fei put the black soil into his Sea of Origin. After feeling that his strength had increased a little, he didn't pay much attention to it. At this moment, Han Fei took out the Heaven Path pill. In Han Fei's eyes, information popped up. Name Heaven Path pill. Introduction, 8th grade divine pill, refined by absorbing the laws of the heavenly Tao. After undergoing the baptism of nature, it is formed after 500 years. The heavenly Tao pill contained the laws of the heavenly Tao. It could fuse with one's own great Tao aura and strengthen the fusion of the heavenly Tao and the self-Tao. After consumption, the effect would last for 10 years, and the user would comprehend it on their own according to their innate talent. Level, Sky Splitter. Quality, Superb. Contains Celestial Spiritual Qi, 1:042. Effect. Consuming this pill can consolidate one's origin Qi, and there's a certain chance that one will comprehend the heavenly Tao. Is the effect of this pill so long? Han Fei's eyes lit up. If it was a pill of this level, then the reward from the 10,000 scales Great Emperor was not bad. By fusing the heavenly Tao into his origin Qi, it could strengthen his origin returning characteristic. If nothing went wrong, it could greatly consolidate his origin Qi. However, it was a pity that he couldn't consume this pill at the moment. Otherwise, it would be bad if he were to cause a disturbance in his body and be discovered. When he returned to Mountain City this time, he would have to start a new round of closed-door cultivation. 3 days later, Han Fei pretended to be in seclusion for 3 days. When he came out of seclusion, he didn't find anything wrong. It seemed that no one had noticed him. Originally, Han Fei didn't intend to go to Mo Chi's place, but he felt the abnormal movement of the great Tao of time. In the origin Sea, Han Fei looked up at the sea of stars and saw a star shining abnormally not far away. So Han Fei still went there. As soon as he entered the door, he heard Mo Chi yell, "Why, are we still allies? You came to the scavenger city and didn't even come to see me?" Han Fei was speechless. "Didn't I just come here? It's only been a few days. I don't need any intelligence for the time being." "Are you sure?" Han Fei's heart did a flip. "What intelligence do you have?" Mo Chi said, "Just tell me if the Wanderer's attack on the city has anything to do with you. Zhang Wei, Long Yunfeng, Zhang Li, and Chou Chen talked to you about the old days. But they all died. I can't tell. You're quite capable." Han Fei couldn't help but say, "This is a coincidence." Mo Chi tilted her eyes and said, "Then why didn't you die? And you can go to the Holy Land to meet the Emperor of 10,000 scales. Do you think I can believe that? We are allies. It's pointless to hide it like this." Han Fei shook his head. "This matter really has nothing to do with me. As for why Zhang Wei and the others all died, It's because we encountered the 7 emperors of the primordial city in order to compete for a primitive cemetery that we thought was the starting ground. Isn't this kind of thing very normal? Oh? Is that so? Mo-chi seemed to calculate silently, as if judging the correctness of Han Fei's words. After a while, she seemed to be sure, and then said, "What you said seems to be right. 5 against 7, for died. Presumably, those in the primordial city are all dead, right?" Han Fei shook his head. "One is still alive." Mo-chi said indifferently, "The Wanderer's attack on the city is such a big event and such a good opportunity. Didn't you take advantage of the situation?" Han Fei asked, "Would you believe me if I said no?" Mo-chi shook her head. "I don't believe it. I calculated that your wealth has increased greatly. You must have taken advantage of the situation." Han Fei couldn't help but be stunned. "Didn't you say that you couldn't use the great prophecy technique on me?" Mo-chi said matter-of-factly, "Yes. But I just calculated my fortune. I don't need prophecy for this kind of thing. I just need to do a little calculation." Han Fei thought to himself, "This girl is better at divination than old Han. I wonder where she comes from." Mo-chi changed the topic. "Let's get down to business. Doesn't the Emperor of 10,000 Scales doubt you at all?" Han Fei shrugged. "You see, I'm just Xue Fei now." Mo-chi frowned and said, "Although you haven't turned into a star yet, I can feel that your natal star is sometimes far away and sometimes near. It's erratic. You seem to be wandering near the scavenger city. Otherwise, I can't directly touch you with the great Tao." Han Fei asked, "Natal star?" Mo-chi explained, "Since the sky has been opened, the source sea can actually be regarded as an unformed natal star. Many of the stars we see in the Sea of Stars are actually the natal stars of countless strong masters." Han Fei couldn't help but smile. "Are you kidding me? There are so many stars in the sky. How can there be so many natal stars?" Mo-chi nodded. "Dead ones are also counted. Kings and even venerables, any realm, even fishing masters, have a natal star. It's just a small one, maybe only the size of a stone, but it's still a natal star." "Huh." Han Fei couldn't help but frown. He seemed to have heard a saying before that after death, people would turn into a star in the sky. He didn't expect that this saying would come true here. Han Fei couldn't help but be interested. "You mean, everyone has a natal star?" Mo-chi giggled. "You see, you won't lose anything by coming here, will you? Everyone has a natal star, but only when you become a king will your natal star be formally formed, but it's not big and incomplete. Until the sky is opened, the natal star shines in the Sea of Stars and reaches the point where it can be observed." Han Fei couldn't help asking, "What happens after that?" Mo-chi said helplessly, "You can explore it yourself. I'm just opening the sky. If I become a king, I won't talk to you." Han Fei was about to complain, but then he thought of something. Mo-chi should know a lot. After all, she had seen too many emperors, and many people had to buy intelligence from her. Han Fei said, "Let me ask you something. If you want to kill a heaven-opening expert, is the only way to destroy his source sea or the natal item in the source sea?" "Yes and no." "Huh?" Han Fei asked, "What do you mean?" Mo-chi asked, "Do you want to pay some money? Your question is too expensive. I'll charge you 500 million energy crystals. What do you think?" Han Fei's face darkened. "Are you crazy because of poverty? Didn't you just say we are allies? Now you want 500 million from an ally. Allies can't always be free, right? Forget it, I'll charge you 50 million, okay? You're so stingy. How can a man be so stingy?" Listening to Mo-chi's nagging, Han Fei said with a dark face, "Tell me." Mo-chi immediately smiled. "Okay. It's the boss who pays." Han Fei. Indeed, Han Fei really wanted to know the answer to this question, but he had no choice but to pay. He muttered in his heart. He finally got the energy crystals, but he had to pay 50 million because of a question. How painful! Mo-chi, who took the energy crystals, said with a smile, In theory, it is extremely difficult to kill a heaven-opening expert who fuses with the source C or condenses a natal item, or both at the same time. However, nothing is absolute. Most emperors, before they become stars, think it is very difficult to kill a heaven-opening expert. However, once they become stars, they will find that there are actually other ways to break their source C and natal items. Han Fei was shocked. He knew that it was too easy for Gu Tingnan and the others to kill heaven creators. They only needed to point their fingers to destroy the heaven creators. If they couldn't penetrate the opponent's source C with a finger, there must be another way to kill a heaven-opening expert. Emochi continued, one way is to land on the opponent's source C through the star C and penetrate it from the outside. Of course, this method is more difficult than breaking into their source C. Because even if two heaven-opening experts are close to each other, it is difficult to cross the star C directly. At least, it is difficult for a heaven-opening expert to do this. Han Fei asked, what about the other way? Emochi said, the other one is simple. Most heaven-splitting experts don't know that when their source C is formed, a strand of source imprint will be born in the deepest part of their consciousness C. Everyone has it. You can go back and look for it. Because the mark is hidden too deeply, even they can't find it. So, as long as you find the mark and smash it, his Tao will collapse. Han Fei couldn't help but be shocked. So simple? Emochi tilted her head and looked at Han Fei. You think it's simple? You haven't even found your own origin mark. How can it be simple? Han Fei asked, no, what about after I become a star? Chapter 2162. Han Fei had always felt that it was extremely difficult to open the heavenly realm from the heavenly opening realm. If he didn't have the navigator, he wouldn't have been able to attack the other party's origin C. Without the demon purification pot, even if he broke into the enemy's origin C, the enemy's accumulated power for tens of thousands of years would be enough to crush him. How could he break through the enemy's origin C? It was already so troublesome for him to kill a heaven-opening realm cultivator, let alone others. Due to the limitations of the navigational multidimensional apparatus, he could theoretically only kill 3 heaven-opening stage cultivators in a day. Although this number was definitely not small, and the time interval was only 1 day, it was not good to have an upper limit. For example, in the battle a few days ago, he had used up the navigational multitude device, so he could only use other methods to enter the enemy's origin C. Think about it, those who did not have the multitude navigator or the demon purification gourd. Wouldn't they be lonely after fighting for so long? For example, Ma Qiankuan, Wu Qinghua, and the others were in such a state. They said they were attacking Scavenger City, but in reality, they couldn't even kill a heaven-opening expert. Emochi said, after you turn into a star bead will be born in your mind. If the star pearl shatters, the origin C collapses, and the great Tao collapses, then I will destroy his physical body and slaughter his soul. I can beat a heaven-opening realm cultivator to death. Han Fei couldn't help but frown. After turning into a star, there are obvious star beads. Doesn't this mean that the stronger one is, the easier it is to be killed? Emochi sneered. Star beads. That thing could instantly use the boundless power of the origin C. With that thing, it would be even harder to die. Let's say that the normal combat power is 100, but the star bead can unleash 1,000 points of power. Do you think you'll be able to break through it? Han Fei opened his mouth. Infinite outburst? Then how do we kill them? Emochi said leisurely, it can't be said to be unlimited. It depends on the power stored in your origin C. If too much power erupted through the star beads, it would affect the strength of the origin C. This was equivalent to releasing one's foundation. Then wouldn't all your hard work in cultivation be in vain? Hence, under normal circumstances, even powerhouses who had reached the star transformation stage would not choose to frequently use star beads to unleash their combat power. If this goes on, they won't be able to prove their Tao. Han Fei finally understood that the star bead could actually allow the heaven-opening state to release its power very conveniently. However, it existed for the sake of proving one's Tao. Therefore, it was equivalent to a life-saving function. Han Fei understood and couldn't help but ask, is there any technique or divine art that can detect the origin mark? Mo-chi looked at Han Fei as if looking at a fool. If there is such a thing, how easy will it be for the heaven-opening state to die? If the strong mastered this technique, how could the weak survive? The heavenly Tao has its own laws and rules. It was not easy to cultivate to split open the heavens. While putting you in danger, you will also find a way to resist the danger. Han Fei's face turned green. You asked me for 50 million just for that? Mo-chi quickly put away the energy crystal. Isn't this enough? Even if you racked your brains, you wouldn't be able to figure it out. Besides, you're the one who asked this question. It's not like I had to tell you. Han Fei's lips twitched. No, send 2 more messages. You can be expensive to outsiders, but since you and I are allies, the price is too expensive. 50 million energy crystals. Don't you know that Mountain City has a 20% tax cut? Mo-chi shrugged. But then I'll send you another question and some information. Think about it and ask. Han Fei didn't even think about it and asked directly, when should I turn into a star? Anyway, it was a free question. It would be a waste if Han Fei didn't ask. He knew too little about the heaven-opening realm. Although his combat power was very strong, he didn't know enough about this realm, which would definitely be a burden in the future. Mo-chi said, when to turn into a star, there is no final conclusion. One thing I can tell you is that the size of the star is not the only factor in strength. Some people pursue small but refined. Although the origin C is small, it is refined to the extreme. Most people pursue a large origin C, so that their overall combat power will be strong, but the resources consumed will be astronomical. And after turning into a star, they are still far from reaching the Tao. Therefore, many people think that they can turn into a star when the time is right. After all, those who have turned into stars are generally stronger than those who haven't. Hearing this question, Han Fei couldn't help but ask, don't you have some examples? For example, when do gods generally turn into stars? This time, it was Mo-chi's turn to frown. She said helplessly, do you think I know? Han Fei asked, don't you have the great prophecy technique? Mo-chi rolled up her sleeves. I have an urge to beat someone up now. Han Fei, forget it. It's fine if you don't know. Then when did you turn into a star in your origin C? Mo-chi tilted her head. Do you think I can tell you this? But I can tell you that Zhao Honghuang began to turn into a star when he was about 400,000 kilometers away. Fuck! Han Fei was shocked. He began to turn into a star when he was 400,000 kilometers away, but now he was not even 200,000 kilometers away. Furthermore, given the current size of his origin C, the amount of immortal qi and energy resources needed to expand by 10,000 miles would be astronomical. The Daoyuan and the others had cultivated for tens of thousands of years, but they were only about 200,000 kilometers away from 400,000 kilometers away. The real resource consumption gap was not small at all. And from the beginning to the end of the star transformation, it would also require an astronomical amount of resources. Thinking of this, Han Fei immediately gave up. He was less than 200,000 kilometers away. What's the hurry? Han Fei couldn't help but ask, what information do you want to tell me? Mo-chi said, I guess you definitely don't know that this time the Wanderer City attacked the Scavenger City, causing casualties on both sides, and the strength of the major cities. Han Fei raised his eyebrows. Why do I need to know this? But just tell me. Mo-chi said snappily, don't you know that intelligence is to start from the smallest details and find opportunities that others can't see? Han Fei asked, tell me about it. Mo-chi said, in the Scavenger City, 13 heaven-opening realm cultivators died, including Zhang Wei and the others. The number of sea-opening realm cultivators added up to 591. I've prepared the specific number for you in which city. In a short time, the Scavenger City will send at least 13 emperors to the major cities. I've already listed their time of action for you. Looking at the jade slip Mo-chi pushed over, Han Fei was speechless. Fuck, you're asking me to kill people and rob them? Is this really a good idea? It seemed that this girl was really angry at the Emperor of 10,000 Scales. She told Han Fei all the information of the 10,000 Scales clan in minutes. As for how many he could kill, that was Han Fei's business. Han Fei's eyelids twitched. I can kill 1 or 2 at most. It's really hard for you to give me this information. Emochi seemed shocked. I provided such accurate information, and you can kill 1 or 2? Han Fei was also shocked. Do you think I'm the Lord of Silence? Do you think I can kill as many as I want? However, when Han Fei said this, he suddenly thought of something. It didn't seem to be impossible. Since he could fish Gu Tingnan once, he could fish him a second time. It wasn't easy for him to kill so many heaven-opening realm cultivators, but Gu Tingnan could. No, that wasn't right. The war was already over. Gu Tingnan was just warning the Emperor of 10,000 Scales. If Gu Tingnan attacked again and the Emperor of 10,000 Scales found out, the consequences wouldn't be good. If Gu Tingnan couldn't do it, who else could he fish? Han Fei touched the jade slip and put it away. In any case, it was good stuff. Since when did I look down on a heaven-opening realm cultivator? Han Fei asked. Okay, is that all? I'm leaving. Han Fei thought that he had to go back and cultivate in seclusion. He didn't feel good that his strength hadn't reached its peak yet. However, Emochi said, I'm just curious. How did you avoid the venerable emperor's sight? He actually openly went to the Holy Land and came back safely. Han Fei was speechless. Do you think I can tell you such a secret? Emochi said, you can trade. Han Fei said, I can't. No one can learn my talent ability. Emochi said, what a pity. Since you can hide it from the Emperor of 10,000 Scales, when will you take me away? Han Fei couldn't help but squint at Emochi. No, we've only been allies for a few days. I haven't even started my plan in the scavenger city yet. You've waited for tens of thousands of years. Can't you wait for another thousands of years? Besides, the Emperor of 10,000 Scales has done so much harm to you. Are you really willing to leave? Don't you want to destroy the scavenger city? Hiss, Emochi was dumbfounded. Are you going to kill the venerable emperor? But, be civilized. What do you mean I have to kill the venerable emperor myself? Besides, everything is uncertain in the future. Maybe I can't do anything to him for now, so I'll leave first. Then I can take you away. Emochi sighed. Remember not to lie to me, or I can easily trace back time. I can trace back everything about you. Han Fei smiled. Don't worry. I never break my promise. Huh? So your name is Han Fei. Giggle. Then I'll wait to see your performance. Chapter 2163. 3 days later. A team of 8 10,000 scale clan kings passed by hurriedly. The cities could afford to lack heaven-opening realm kings, but not Pioneer Sea realm kings. The lords only made some arrangements for important matters. However, they would definitely not sacrifice too much of their time for a city. At most, they would only be a little more active when the tidal waves arrived. Therefore, most of the matters were handled by the Pioneer Sea realm kings. Basically, for hundreds of years, the Pioneer Sea realm kings managed the city affairs. As a result, the heaven-opening experts who had been selected and arranged to be the lords of the cities without an owner were not in a hurry to set off. But the sea expansion monarchs were different. So many kings had died in this war. All the cities needed to replenish the number of kings. Therefore, the Pioneer Sea realm kings had to go first. From today on, the kings selected by the law enforcement camp would leave the scavenger city. In this team, someone said, "Is it really okay for us to go like this? Even though the great battle has ended, who knows whether those wanderers left behind any people?" Someone said, "Otherwise, are you going to disobey the order? Don't worry. The war is over. If anyone dares to stay and gets caught by the 10,000 scale clan kings, they will be finished." Someone laughed, "Don't think too much. It's good to go to the city. The danger in the city is much lower than in the law enforcement camp. Besides, in the city, the kings basically don't care about anything, so we can rule over a region. After so many years, we finally made it." Someone sighed, But we also lost the chance to explore the primitive graveyard and participate in all kinds of trials. It won't be easy for us to grow, right? Someone sneered. Do you really think there are good things in the primitive graveyard? I think it's better to go to the scavenger sea area. There will always be resources if we dig around. The most important thing is safety. The few of them chatted as they flew. Suddenly, someone felt that something was wrong. He said, "Do you feel like we have been to this place before?" Suddenly, a horrifying pressure descended. Their minds seemed to be attacked by an invisible mental power and fell into chaos. In the blink of an eye, they were forcibly taken to an unknown place. In Han Fei's Origin Sea, the 8 experts of the 10,000 Scales tribe stared at the carefree Han Fei in shock. They realized that they couldn't move their bodies at all. They couldn't even use their bloodlines. Their souls were also forcefully suppressed by the lack of Dao runes. They didn't even have the chance to make a move. Emperor? Everyone was shocked, and they heard someone shout, "Wanderer Emperor, the war is over. Do you want the Wanderer City and the Scavenger City to fight again?" Someone hurriedly said, "We are from the Wanderer Law Enforcement Camp. If you kill us, the Law Enforcement Camp's commander will definitely know. Lord Zhao Honghuang might notice it too. When that happens, you will only kill yourself." Han Fei smiled. "Don't worry. I won't kill you. All of you are good seedlings." After a while, there were 8 puppets of the living dead in Han Fei's Origin Sea. Han Fei said, "After you go to the city, everything must be as usual. I won't inform you. You can live your own lives." The 8 of them replied in unison, "Yes, Master." "Hey, go ahead." In the Origin Sea, they might have wasted some time, but in the outside world, only a very short time was wasted. In other words, these people only stayed for a while before they were refined into puppets and directly let go. Anyway, Han Fei felt that he had a lot of ownerless souls. It only took a few hundred points to refine a Pioneer Sea Realm Master. Even if some of these Pioneer Sea Realm Masters were stronger, it would only cost him 200 or 300 points of Divine Soul. Until 5 days later, Han Fei had caught 42 waves of Pioneer Sea Realm Masters, and the total number of Pioneer Sea Realm Masters under his control reached 218. Because the major cities of the Scavenger City were not in the same direction, Han Fei could only hunt within a certain range. Those who were too far away or set off from another direction of the Scavenger City, he didn't hunt them. And today, 5 days later, it was also the day that the first Pioneer Sea Realm Master left the Scavenger City. This person was the substitute of the number 86 farm, the Lord of Zhang Li's Li City. His name was Ding Yi. If there was no accident, this person would cross the river with at least 15 Pioneer Sea Realm Masters. If Han Fei's method for Pioneer Sea Realm Masters was to refine them into puppets, then his method for Pioneer Sea Realm Masters was more than that. It was impossible for him to instantly penetrate a Pioneer Sea Realm Master, suppress his divine soul, seriously injure him, and refine his soul. It was the emperors who killed Xue Fei. And now, although Han Fei had the ability to defeat or even kill this person, he couldn't control him silently. These were 2 different concepts. Therefore, since he couldn't refine him into a puppet of the living dead, then this person was doomed. Of course, Han Fei had to make the best use of a dead person. Ding Yi's speed was naturally not comparable to that of ordinary kings. He was quite excited at this moment. This time, there were many dead people in the cities behind, and number 86 Li City was considered to be in the front. He was able to take office in Li City because he had been given a lot of benefits. Ding Yi, who was hurrying on his way, suddenly felt that something was wrong. Suddenly, he felt that something was wrong with his associated spirit. To be precise, so far, only human beings could give birth to spiritual beasts. But other races mostly had associated spirits. Han Fei didn't know what special meaning it had. But the nature of the 2 was similar. The 10,000 Scale clan also had associated spirits. What Han Fei needed to do was to eat their associated spirits. Little Black and Little White grew much slower than the Emperor Sparrow. If he hadn't deliberately cultivated them, Little Black and Little White's growth would have been even slower than now. and the Emperor Sparrow's growth had temporarily stagnated. He had reached the threshold of the sky-opening realm, but now he couldn't make any progress. Of course, the Emperor Sparrow's growth was already extremely shocking. He didn't usually come out but occasionally fought and experienced tribulations. Han Fei didn't know how he could grow so fast. When Han Fei appeared in the Soul Sea again, he suddenly found that the level of the primitive spiritual beasts here had changed significantly. The primitive spiritual beasts in the sea realm had more types and higher quality. Han Fei saw flood dragons, angelic spirit fish, and dragon turtles with mysterious carvings on their backs. Seeing Han Fei come in, the Emperor Sparrow said, "You're here to hunt again?" Han Fei replied, "To hunt the associated spirit of an emperor." The Emperor Sparrow had no feelings for the emperor. It said, "If you have time, try to find a place filled with desolate baleful chi in this world in the near future. I need to cultivate and break through to the sky-opening realm." Han Fei was intrigued. "You can break through to the sky-opening realm now?" The Emperor Sparrow said, "As the Emperor Sparrow, it's inevitable for me to become an emperor. However, even I need to start building the origin sea and turning it into a star." Han Fei was surprised. "I've never asked. Hasn't your origin sea been established a long time ago?" The Emperor Sparrow said, "That's one thing, but it's always in your soul sea and origin sea. How can you have the chance to collect resources to build the origin sea? So, after this, you'd better let your contractual spiritual beasts and the little black and white fish go out. It's time for them to transform. Except for Little Black and Little White, the others need to go through their own trials. However, you need to make up for Little Black and Little Whites and my resources." Just when Han Fei was about to agree to the Emperor Sparrow's request, he suddenly saw a seahorse flying over. A seahorse? Han Fei thought to himself, it's rare to see a seahorse's associated spirit. Han Fei said, "Emperor Sparrow, that's the guy. Stop him." The Emperor Sparrow took a look. A peak stage sea-opening realm associated spirit? The Emperor Sparrow's eyes flashed with red light, and the seahorse that was flying over suddenly became confused as if it were entangled by something. Han Fei, who had possessed Little Black, went up and bit it crazily. It was the best time to kill the seahorse while it was still confused. At this moment, even its master couldn't summon it. Chapter 2164. A Human Being? Ding Yi was horrified. Heaven-opening experts were rare among the human race, and this human's concealment technique was extremely powerful. Before he could even react, he had killed his companion spirit. The companion spirit was something that everyone had painstakingly raised. It accompanied them as they grew up and lived together. Han Fei's act of killing Ding Yi's companion spirit had completely turned the two of them into mortal enemies. Ding Yi's heart sank when he was full of anger. This place was not close to the scavenger city, and he had been walking for half a day. Even if he wanted to run, he probably couldn't. The nearest city should be the number 32 breeding farm, but it should be 500 million kilometers away. It could be said that he was in a remote place. Since this human was lying in ambush here, he must not be simple. Even though Ding Yi was angry, he knew that this was not the time to be impulsive. He had to find a way to escape. Han Fei grinned. "Unfortunately, you're the first one to come, which means you're unlucky. In your next life, remember to do some good deeds to make up for your luck." Ding Yi snorted. "Human, the war between the City of Wanderers and the Scavenger City is over. Do you want to stir up a conflict between the two?" Han Fei said, "You think too highly of yourself. Even if I stir up a conflict, so what?" While Han Fei was talking to Ding Yi, he had already secretly set up a trap. Suddenly, a large number of Dao patterns rose and a trapping array spanning more than 3,000 kilometers appeared. Ding Yi was not to be outdone. He held two black crystal long knives in his hands and slashed out a blue light. Clang! When Ding Yi crashed into the battle, Han Fei couldn't help but be surprised. This person was so fast. The speed he burst out just now had reached the limit. However, Han Fei had set up this battle for a long time. How could he break it so easily? Han Fei attacked with all his strength. The Tao Convergence sword burst out. Seeing this, Ding Yi didn't dare to be careless. This sword was so powerful that he felt his life was in danger. If he was hit, he might not be able to resist it with his strength. Therefore, Ding Yi also burst out. His blood chi sword and the two long knives turned into a double-headed dragon, biting at Han Fei with destructive power. However, at the moment when Ding Yi burst out, Han Fei slightly raised the corners of his mouth. Immediately, Ding Yi's heart skipped a beat. What kind of expression was that? At that moment, Han Fei took out a mirror. The next second, Ding Yi suddenly realized that he had appeared in an unfamiliar mirror space. Within the mirror, there were countless twin-headed dragon-like blade rays. Puff, 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 Han Fei deliberately led Ding Yi to unleash his full strength so that the infinity mirror could replicate his attack. Right now, those countless flood dragon blade lights swept across Ding Yi's body in the blink of an eye, slicing him into nothingness. How would Ding Yi know that he would encounter such a strange battle? He would never have thought that he would be killed by himself one day. In Han Fei's hand, the navigator spun, and he pierced through the void, breaking into Ding Yi's origin sea. Human, you dare to enter my origin sea? Han Fei thought to himself. Every time he entered someone else's origin sea, he would say the same thing. Idiot, how could I enter your origin sea if I didn't have some tricks up my sleeve? When the demon purification pot began to crazily devour the resources of Ding Yi's origin sea, Ding Yi realized that he couldn't suppress this human in his origin sea. A moment later, when Ding Yi's origin sea was almost sucked dry by Han Fei threw out millions of energy crystals and detonated them. Rumble, in the sky, the weather changed, and the Emperor Death appeared. Even the pioneer sea realm cultivators in Ding Yi's origin sea died one after another. And Han Fei took out his fish hook. Although Han Fei could enslave Ding Yi, he didn't intend to do so. The low-ranking lords of the scavenger city were only average in strength. If he enslaved them now, they wouldn't be able to grow stronger, and he could get more resources every 100 years, but he couldn't do anything else. And Han Fei never planned to stay in the chaotic wasteland for a long time. The reason why he stayed here temporarily was to look for opportunities, to learn more about the sea realm, and to consolidate his cultivation and improve himself. Ding Yi's death would inevitably alarm the scavenger city, and that was exactly what Han Fei needed. Because Han Fei left a trace of the soul of a king in Ding Yi's collapsed origin sea. Han Fei turned into Ren Tianfen again and fished more than a dozen times with the fishing rod in his hand. Finally, a man was pulled out of the void. And this person looked exactly like Xia Xiaochan. Maybe because it was far away from the chaotic sea, it wasn't easy to fish for Xia Xiaochan's historical projection. Besides, Xia Xiaochan, who was fished over, was completely unconscious. Alas! Girl, wait for me. I'll come to you after I prove my Tao. Then, with a thought from Han Fei, Xia Xiaochan suddenly flapped her wings. Cicada, in less than 100 breaths' time, an imperious expert suddenly descended upon the place. Who else could this person be but the Emperor of 10,000 Scales? Although venerable sovereigns were powerful, there were still differences in strength among venerable sovereigns. Someone like the eldest senior brother could ignore the heavenly Tao, travel across realms, and shake the world with one hand. No one could stop him. However, the Emperor of 10,000 Scales was still far from that level. Of course, Han Fei didn't dare to be careless. When the Emperor of 10,000 Scales arrived, he was already hundreds of millions of kilometers away, drifting with the current in a black mist. Unless this emperor could recreate time, he wouldn't be able to find him from hundreds of millions of kilometers away. The Emperor of 10,000 Scales appeared here and sensed the bursting power here. He couldn't help but frown. Suddenly, he stretched out his hand and pierced through a void node. This was the collapsed origin sea realm of Ding. In this collapsing origin sea, the 10,000 Scales Emperor discovered that almost all the resources here had been taken away. Just as he was about to leave, he suddenly had a thought. He extended his hand and grabbed. At the place where the explosion was the weakest, he found a strand of soul that was almost extinguished. The Emperor of 10,000 Scales was surprised. This was just a trace of a king's divine soul. He looked at the location where this divine soul was located. It was the boundary between the origin sea and the outside world. This person might have coincidentally collapsed here and escaped the calamity of the destruction of Ding Yi's origin sea. However, even so, this person was only left with a trace of divine soul, and it wasn't his main divine soul. His main divine soul had already been annihilated. The Emperor of 10,000 Scales pinched this divine soul that didn't have much consciousness and had an ugly expression. Half an hour later, in the sacred land of Scavenger City, Emochi was summoned here. Emochi said, "How is it? Are you going to let me out? If you detain me again, I'll tell the seniors of the Temple of Time that you detained me and mistreated me." The Emperor of 10,000 Scales snorted, "You came out to gain experience. Over these years, you've grown a lot in my Scavenger City. Apart from not being able to leave, I've never restricted you from doing anything. How can the Temple of Time punish me for this?" Emochi snorted and said, "Who wants to stay in this broken city? There's a brilliant world waiting for me outside. You'd better let me go as soon as possible." The Emperor of 10,000 Scales said, "Don't panic. I'll definitely let you go in the future. Now, I need you to help me look at a trace of my divine soul." Emochi was speechless. "I'm a prophet. Why do you want to show me a divine soul?" The Emperor of 10,000 Scales said, "Just now, half an hour ago, near the number 32 breeding farm, a strong master who descended from the sky died in my Scavenger City. Now, only a trace of his remnant soul is left, and his main divine soul is gone. I wonder if you can look back in time." Emochi said, "If there's no benefit, I won't do it." The Emperor of 10,000 Scales frowned and said, 3 pieces of black-yellow soil. I think it's just a small thing. The price shouldn't be low." Emochi said, 5 pieces. You're asking me for a favor. I'll decide how much you want." The Emperor of 10,000 Scales' expression didn't change at all. After a moment of silence, he snorted softly. "As you wish." Emochi felt that she had guessed most of it correctly. She also wanted to see what method Han Fei used. Blue halos swirled in Emochi's eyes. After a while, Emochi was surprised to see that Han Fei had messed up that period of time, and she could only vaguely see some pictures and sounds. Damn Han Fei. He knew that the Emperor of 10,000 Scales would find me, so he erased the key information of that period of time? When Mochi recovered, she said, Ding Yi was killed by 2 people working together. One of them was named Ren Tianfei, a heaven-opening stage human expert. The other one, if I'm not mistaken, is from the Yin family. The Yin family? The Emperor of 10,000 Scales' pupils suddenly constricted, and he asked aggressively, "Are you sure?" Emochi took out her crystal ball with a flip of her hand. The blue halo twisted, and not long after, a vague image appeared in the crystal ball. The picture was intermittent, and only Ren Tianfei and Ding Yi's conversation could be heard. But that wasn't the point. The point was that the sound of cicada infuriated the Emperor of 10,000 Scales. After throwing 5 pieces of black-yellow soil to Mochi and sending them back, the Emperor of 10,000 Scales growled, "In family, you've really worked hard to instigate the hatred between the Scavenger City and the Drifter City." On the other side, Emochi snorted in her heart. This guy is instigating the relationship between the Emperor of 10,000 Scales and the 2 emperors of the Yin family. Also, he seems to be testing if I'm a qualified ally. Interesting. Chapter 2165. 2 days later, Han Fei returned to Mountain City. He didn't kill the other heaven-opening state powerhouses at all. At least, now was not the time. The heaven-opening state powerhouses in Scavenger City were not stupid. Knowing that Ding Yi had been killed, they would either travel together or set up traps. As for what they wanted to do, it was up to them. Han Fei didn't want to play anymore. Framing, and sowing dissension, as long as a seed of doubt was planted in the 10,000 Scales Emperor's heart, it would be enough. Next time, if the primitive city wanted to cooperate with the Emperor of 10,000 Scales again, the latter would have to think twice. In Mountain City, everyone was in a panic. The war had just broken out. God knew what would happen next. The Lord was not here, and almost all the sea-opening state powerhouses had been killed. The only remaining king became the target of most people. For example, Hong Yu's impression on the humans in Mountain City was getting better and better. On this day, Hong Yu was patrolling the human area, asking questions here and there. Many human venerables were hesitating whether they should go out to hunt or not. Someone said, "Master Hong Yu, I heard that the village is safer. No one attacked it. Can we secretly go back to the village to take refuge?" Hong Yu said, "Don't think too much. If you all sneak away, do you know how serious the consequences will be when the Lord returns?" Someone sighed. "But we don't dare to go out at all. I heard that some people have come to our mountain city. It's said that they came from other cities." Hong Yu said, "Don't worry. The war won't affect you. The war between the strong will only affect the strong. If it really affected you, Mountain City would have been gone long ago. Now, do what you need to do. You can hunt in a small area nearby. If you are really worried, wait a few more days. The Lord will be back soon." At this moment, Hong Yu heard a voice in his heart, "Come to see me." Hong Yu's heart stirred as he consoled everyone. "All right, there's no need to panic. This king has a feeling that the war has already ended." After comforting some human cultivators and getting to know most of them, Hong Yu hurried to the Lord's mansion. At this time, there was only one sea-opening state powerhouse in the city. No one knew where he was going and what he was going to do. In the mansion, seeing that Han Fei had returned, Hong Yu quickly cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty." Han Fei nodded slightly. "Relax and follow me to Xue Fei's Origin Sea." In Han Fei's Origin Sea, the Pioneer Sea Realm Kings were restricted to a specific area. At this moment, the 5 female cultivators of the human race and the 15 kings of the 10,000 scale tribe were trapped together. When the 10,000 scale tribe's rulers saw the human female cultivator, they immediately came to a realization. These days, this woman was often ridiculed. At this moment, a king of the 10,000 scales tribe said, "It has been more than 10 days, right? We should be arriving at Shanqing soon. Brothers, this will be another starting point for us. Work hard." Someone laughed and said, "I heard that the Lord has a cold face and a warm heart. Right now, there is a shortage of experts in Mountain City. I wonder what position we will be assigned." Everyone looked at each other and smiled. Of course, they were willing to be tax envoys. They had heard that tax envoys were very lucrative, and the benefits were much greater than guarding cities. "Sai, what do you think will happen to these 5 human female cultivators?" "Ha, do you even need to ask? If they can serve the Lord well, that would be great. If they can't, their path will be over." Someone looked at Inyue and the others. That person said, "Inyue, this is what you get for thinking too highly of yourselves. Different lords have different preferences. I advise you to think about how to serve Sir Lord. This is a field of study." The kings of the 10,000 scale tribe laughed. On the other side, the 5 female cultivators, led by Inyue, had unpleasant expressions. Inyue spat out with an unpleasant expression, "Do you think the Lord is as filthy as you?" Instantly, the experts of the 10,000 scale tribe changed their expressions. Someone yelled, "Inyue, don't be so ungrateful. Have you forgotten where you are now? This is the Lord's Origin Sea. How dare you insult the Lord?" Chu Lingyu said, "We didn't. You are slandering us." "Pumph. Slandering you? Who doesn't know you humans? You are so weak, but you are still so arrogant. What are you so arrogant about? Since you are a subsidiary tribe of the 10,000 scale tribe, you have to give up your dignity. We are your masters." Jiang Yu, who was the youngest among them, spat out. "In the cultivation world, strength is everything. The Lord is strong because he is the Lord. Who do you think you are to be my Lord?" Jiang Yu. The older sister Jiang Liuyu pulled Jiang Yu aside. "Don't argue with them. One day we will be stronger than them." "Ha! Stronger than us?" Many kings of the 10,000 scale tribe looked at each other and laughed. "With your resources? If you leave the main city, where can you go to exchange for resources?" This person's words caused Wen Ruqing and the others' expressions to dim. They were not afraid of being tortured. However, without resources, how could they become stronger? Could it be that they could only rely on serving Xue Fei and receiving the rewards to cultivate? Just as the female cultivators were feeling gloomy, two figures suddenly appeared in the Origin Sea. Everyone was surprised. Why did Xue Fei not let them out directly but entered the Origin Sea? Also, why were there two people? However, when they saw the two of them clearly, they were surprised. Why were there two humans? Were they captured by Lord Xue Fei? A king of the 10,000 scale tribe said, "Did you two go to the mountain city to guard, or were you captured on the way here?" Han Fei looked at him as if he was looking at a dead man. "Me? Hee, I am here to send you on your way." "How dare you? How dare you be so arrogant in the Lord's Origin Sea? Xue Fei? Why is this trash so important to you?" Hiss. Instantly, the kings of the 10,000 scale tribe were dumbfounded. "Are you kidding me? This guy insulted the Lord in the Lord's Origin Sea?" On the other side, Yu and the others were shocked. Yu said, "Don't talk nonsense." However, Han Fei and Hong Yu ignored them. Han Fei looked at Hong Yu and said, "These are not weak. The weakest one has a origin sea of more than 50,000 miles. Hong Yu licked his lips and said, "Hee, the stronger the better. Only such puppets are strong. Lord, are they all mine?" Han Fei nodded. "In the near future, I won't have the time to manage the mountain city. These people will be under your control from now on." Looking at Han Fei, who had an extraordinary temperament, and Hong Yu, who was unusually excited, these 10,000 scale tribe experts suddenly had a bad feeling. Next door, Yu and the others were dumbfounded. What's going on with these two? How dare they act so recklessly in the Lord's Origin Sea? Also, they seem to be distributing the kings of the 10,000 scale tribe like items? Then, Hong Yu was overjoyed. He bowed at Han Fei and said, "Thank you, Lord Human Emperor, for your reward." Lord Human Emperor? Before they could react, they felt the boundless power of the Origin Sea pressing down on them. The experts of the 10,000 scale tribe were instantly forced to kneel on the ground. Their blood froze and they were unable to move. With a thought, a puppet sat on Hong Yu's shoulder. Following the movement of the puppet's finger, a ruler of the 10,000 scales tribe was triggered. Then, the puppet flew to the front of the king of the 10,000 scale tribe. Its fingers seemed to be able to pierce through the divine soul, and it forcefully pulled out the divine soul of the 10,000 scale tribe. At this moment, Han Fei saw countless fine silk threads hooked into the soul fire of the 10,000 scale tribe, and a stream of Hong Yu's divine soul was slowly injected into it. Han Fei watched with great interest. Hong Yu's control method was very different from his. Hong Yu's thousand puppet was a natural control-type spiritual beast. Han Fei wondered how effective it would be after it was controlled. Under the astonished and shocked gazes of Yue and the others, after a while, the 10,000 scales tribe's king said to Hong Yu, "Greetings, master." Gasp. At this moment, Yu and the others were dumbfounded. Who are these two people? How did they do it? At this moment, Han Fei ignored Hong Yu, who was refining corpses and controlling souls. Instead, he walked towards Yu and the others with his hands behind his back. Seeing that they were avoiding him, Han Fei couldn't help but laugh. "What's wrong? Are you used to being oppressed by the 10,000 scale tribe? Now you're scared to see your fellow humans?" Yu looked at Hong Yu, who was performing a strange technique, then at Han Fei. She couldn't help but gasp, "Who are you?" Han Fei couldn't help but say, "Didn't you hear it?" Seeing that Yu and the others were still looking at him with vigilance, Han Fei couldn't help but shake his head. "My name is Han Fei, the Emperor of the human race. You can call me Human Emperor." Chapter 2166. Human Sovereign? Yue and the rest could not believe their ears. They did not understand the meaning of the word, human sovereign, at first, and thought Han Fei was a heaven-opening realm expert of the human race. The reason why they called him human sovereign might be because he was a narcissistic sovereign. They guessed that this person might have killed Xue Fei in some way, which was why he could appear in Xue Fei's origin sea. Therefore, they all bowed to Han Fei. "Greetings, sovereign." At this moment, Hong Yu could not bear it anymore and shouted, "It's not sovereign, it's sovereign." Sovereign walks on the great path of the human sovereign and possesses the power to conquer the world. His responsibility is to revive the human race and save the people. All of you are fortunate enough to be saved by His Majesty, so why don't you understand? Hong Yu's words stunned them. Great path of the human sovereign? The sovereign of the entire human race? Isn't this the legendary path? Jiang Yu said dumbfoundedly, "If it's the sovereign of the human race, why are the people of the human race still under the control of the 10,000 Scales tribe?" Hong Yu humphed coldly, "Idiot, our sovereign is rising. How can he go against the 10,000 Scales emperor? We are planning to cut off the foundation of the 10,000 Scales tribe. Think carefully before you speak." Han Fei could not help but look at Hong Yu. "Damn it, I failed to show off, and I still need Hong Yu to brag. My position as the human sovereign is really pitiful." Han Fei said, 100,000 years ago, there were no humans in the chaotic wasteland. The roots of the human race come from the origin ground. The previous human sovereign brought your ancestors out of the origin ground and into the chaotic wasteland. Because you were attacked by the 10,000 Scales tribe, you ended up in the chaotic wasteland and were bullied by the 10,000 Scales tribe. Now, I have just left the origin ground and saw the human race being enslaved by the 10,000 Scales tribe. Therefore, I chose to stay here and slowly plan to destroy the 10,000 Scales tribe. Today, I will give you two choices. First, follow me, but this path will be extremely difficult. Second, I can give you the sea map, and you will be taken in by the City of Wonders. I will give you 3 days to consider. 3 days later, in a certain mansion outside the Mountain City Lord's mansion, Moon Cherry and the others were gathered together. For the past few days, they felt like they were in a dream. Wen Ruqing said, "I have decided." The four ladies couldn't help but look at Wen Ruqing, only to hear the latter saying, "For the past 3 days, you've seen it for yourself. In the entire Mountain City, all the kings of the 10,000 Scale tribe were controlled by Senior Hong Yu. They were all puppets. The original Lord, Xue Fei, was a puppet of the human emperor. The taxes of the entire Mountain City were reduced by 30%. I saw hope, so I chose to stay. Regardless of whether we can overthrow the 10,000 Scale tribe's rule, at least we are worthy of our identity as humans." Everyone couldn't help but be slightly moved. How could they not know that this was a bumpy road? Chu Lingyu suddenly stood up and said, "I don't know anything about the Wanderer's City. I only know that when we were chosen by Xue Fei, we all thought that we had walked on a path of no return. It was Lord Human Emperor who saved us. Lord Human Emperor and Lord Hong Yu, with just the two of them, managed to control an entire city with a single strike and faced the colossal 10,000 Scaled tribe alone. Are we going to watch generation after generation of humans being enslaved by the 10,000 Scales tribe after being oppressed to this extent?" Inyue, that's right. There had to be someone in the human race who could resist. Whether they succeed or not, at least they set an example for some of the humans. Let them know that there are people who have been working hard for the rise of the human race, and to not be enslaved. Jiang Yu, I won't go to the Wanderer's City either. Even the human emperor dares to fight against the 10,000 Scale tribe. What are we afraid of? Jiang Liuyu, Er's decision is my decision. The moment Inyue and the other four decided to follow Han Fei, their temperament changed drastically. It was a kind of confidence, a kind of determination, and a kind of courage. Actually, humans had high potential. When Inyue and the others realized this, they all understood their Tao at the same time. When the 5 of them stood in the Lord's mansion, Han Fei was lying leisurely on a recliner and smiled. "Have you decided?" Inyue, Your Majesty, the 5 of us want to follow in your footsteps and resist the 10,000 Scale tribe. We don't want generations of humans in the Scavenger City to be enslaved by the 10,000 Scale tribe. Han Fei glanced at them. Do you all have the same idea? Wen Ruqing, we don't want to be enslaved. Han Fei couldn't help but straighten up. His expression became serious. This path is destined to be full of thorns. For a long time in the future, you will have to endure it. You will watch some humans continue to be enslaved, and you will be trapped in loneliness and helplessness for a long time. Let me confirm again. Are you really willing to follow me? At this moment, Han Fei released his aura. His surging energy, terrifying pressure, and horrifying murderous intent. It made Yue and the other four feel like they were in the middle of a raging wave, while they were like a boat, drifting helplessly and feeling infinite mental pressure. Han Fei didn't want everyone. Although these people were humans, he still had to weigh their determination and Tao. He would only trust them if they could still make a decision under his pressure and soul-sucking technique. They struggled for a long time. Finally, when they were almost soaked, they tried their best to face Han Fei's pressure and yelled, "We are willing to follow your majesty and fight for the rise of humans." Outside, Hong Yu slightly curled his lips. This was the first group of forces that the human emperor didn't need to control in the chaotic wasteland. Although there were only 5 of them, it was a good start. No, a very good start. When Han Fei's pressure and soul-sucking technique were withdrawn, the 5 of them staggered and felt that they could fall at any time. However, at the same time that they heaved sighs of relief, they were all astonished. They felt that their strength had somehow increased. Why was this happening? Han Fei was lying on the chair again. He said slowly, "You've been suppressed for too long. Once your Tao is clear, your real strength can be unleashed." After that, Han Fei threw out 5-star shells, which landed before them. "Your origin sea is too empty, and the amount of resources is pitifully small, which greatly limits the growth of your strength. Here, each of you has 1,000,000 energy crystals and resources that can fill up about 50,000 kilometers. Although you have enough resources, don't use the energy crystals recklessly. Your top priority is to fill up your origin sea. Right, your bodies are too weak. Come to me after you fill up your origin sea, and I'll teach you another body tempering technique." Hiss, Yue and the other 4 couldn't believe their ears. 1,000,000 energy crystals? Enough resources to fill up 50,000 kilometers? There was a special body tempering technique? How could they not be shocked when the resources that they could only dream of were right in front of them? It was like a pie falling from the sky. When Ruqing and Yue couldn't help but burst into tears. They had been exchanging for resources for a long time, but they were still not enough. Now that the resources were right in front of them, they realized how important it was for the human race to have a powerhouse like the human ruler. The 5 of them bowed to him. "Thank you, Your Majesty. We won't let you down." As soon as Han Fei raised his hand, they stood up uncontrollably. Han Fei said leisurely, "As human beings, you can kneel to the heavens and the earth. As human cultivators, you can't kneel to the heavens or the earth. The human race will stand proudly in the ocean realm. No one in this world is worthy of your worship." "Yes, Your Majesty." After Yue and the others left, Han Fei heaved a sigh. It was a pity that he could only save 5 of them. Those who could make it to the scavenger city weren't weak, but they had enough potential. The 10,000 scale clan obviously didn't want them to grow and only gave them insignificant resources. Even if they had a chance to open the sky in the future, what could they do? There was no living heaven-opening realm human overlord in the scavenger city, which was enough to prove the problem. Hong Yu dashed in with a swoosh. Han Fei couldn't help but glance at him. "I know your strength must have improved a lot. Refining so many living corpses suits your path. In the future, you just need to pay attention to the development of the mountain city. Yue and the others are too weak. They won't be able to return to their peak without 100 years. And I need to cultivate in seclusion." Hong Yu immediately said, "Your Majesty, don't worry. With my puppet overseeing things, I'll be the first to know if there's even the slightest movement. If something big happens, I'll inform you." When Hong Yu said the word subordinate, Han Fei's eyelids twitched. "Don't call me subordinate anymore. I'm the human emperor, and I don't want there to be such a hierarchy in the human race." "Yes, Your Majesty." After Hong Yu left, Han Fei asked Xue Fei to stay in the Lord's mansion, and he himself had already left the mountain city. With a thought from Han Fei, Nez's clone appeared in front of him. Han Fei murmured, "It's time to go to the City of Wanderers." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.